Chapter 787. Officer, if you want to arrest him, please arrest him first. You can tell that he's not a good person just by looking at him. At this moment, the monk in the Kasaya spoke. He pointed at the kappa next to him without hesitation, ready to betray his teammate. Hey, the kappa didn't react much. He just turned to look at the monk and said coldly, as a master, don't you feel ashamed to betray your disciple when you're in trouble? Cut the crap. The monk shouted and continued to talk to Inyanosuk. Officer, I have nothing to do with this person. You have to believe me. He widened his eyes and stepped forward to grab Inukazuk's hands. I am the famous Master Sanzang. A monk doesn't lie. Ha! Inyanosuk laughed dryly. I'm also the Prince of Shingda. Save it. He pushed the man away. If you suddenly touch me again, I'll bite you to death and write assaulting a police officer in the report. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been born. Sanzang lowered his head and admitted his mistake. He actually admitted his mistake. Xiao Tan, who was watching from the side, was humiliated by this guy. He couldn't help but mutter, this guy is really shameless. But, from their appearance, could these guys really be? That's right. Feng Bujue took 2 steps back and moved closer to Xiao Tan. He whispered, these 3 guys are Sanzang and his disciple from the sun and the universe. Xiao Tan had never read about their story, so he was confused. So, that monk is Sanzang, the monkey is Wukong, and the kappa is Wujing? Yes. Brother Ju nodded. Where did Beiji go? Xiao Tan asked again. They ate him. Feng Bujue quickly replied in a calm tone. Xiao Tan didn't seem to have heard clearly. He was stunned for a moment. What did you say? Feng Bujue shrugged. Didn't Inyanosuk say it very clearly? A human, a monkey, and a kappa attacked a pig together, and then they ran away with a white horse to the west, I say? What kind of world is this? Wang Tanji felt as if his childhood had been ruined. I thought it was supposed to be funny. Why do I feel like the stories here are so dark? Stay calm, Feng Bujue said. Although there are a lot of very scary plots when you think about it calmly, it's still quite funny at first glance. What you said is the opposite, Xiao Tan said. From the tone to the content, everything is the opposite. While the 2 of them were talking, the Wukong opposite them had already walked up to Inyanosuk. He said with a straight face, Mr. Police Officer, how can you believe an anonymous report? Maybe someone just doesn't like us, so they casually made up a so-called murder case to frame us. That's right. When Sanzang heard this, his face lit up with joy. He immediately put on a smug expression and said to Inyanosuk, they said we attacked Beiji, but where's the evidence? When Inyanosuk heard this, he took out a small notebook that he always carried with him and jotted down a few words. Oh, the victim's name is Beiji? What a big idiot. Wujing looked at Sanzang's back and added a sarcastic remark coldly. Shut up, you traitor. Sanzang turned around and shouted, your master just let it slip. At a time like this, we have to be united. While they were arguing, Inyanosuk seemed to have thought of another idea. He spoke again to Inyanosuk. Mr. Police Officer, there was a man called Beiji who was traveling with the 3 of us, but he left alone this morning. We don't know where he went. Is that so? Inyanosuk muttered suspiciously. At this time, Feng Bujue strode forward and laughed coldly. He left alone? He repeated what the other party said, his tone full of disdain. All right then, tell me, what did he say to you before he left? He said, Wukong was about to answer. Wait, Feng Bujue shouted and interrupted him. One by one, he pointed at Officer Inyanosuk and said, please, the 3 of you, take turns, and whisper what Beiji said before he left the Officer Inyanosuk. As soon as he said this, the 3 people's expressions changed abruptly. What's wrong? Is there any problem? Brother Ju saw the change in their expressions and smiled. You're feeling guilty, aren't you? It's fine. Unexpectedly, Wujing quickly regained his composure and replied in a calm tone. He then gave Wukong and Sanzang a look. Just tell the truth. 3 minutes later, the interrogation ended. Officer, did they all say the same thing? Feng Bujue asked as he looked at Inyanosuk, who was walking back from afar. Obviously, Brother Ju felt a little uneasy when he saw Wu Jing's calm attitude just now. It's not the same, Inyanosuk replied. Uh-huh. Feng Bujue immediately turned to look at Sanzang and his disciples. Now, what else do you have to say? However, what greeted him were three sneering and complacent faces. Brother Ju was stunned when he saw this. He turned to look at Inyanosuk. Inyanosuk continued. Although they said different things, the meaning is similar. He paused for 2 seconds and recounted. As for what Beiji said before he left, Sanzang's version is, "Wait, stop, don't eat me. I really don't taste good. I taste like horse dung, really." He raised his claw and pointed at Wukong. Wukong's version is, "Why are you three looking at me and whispering to each other? Stop. It feels so weird." He then pointed at Wu Jing. Wu Jing's version is, "I say, don't eat me. Which part tastes good? Stop making such dark jokes." It's not a joke. He ate him. He really ate Beiji. Before Inyanosuk could finish, Xiao Tan was already shocked. After he finished narrating the 3 sentences, Xiao Tan roared, and it feels like it was premeditated for a long time. No. Wu Jing looked at Xiao Tan and shook his head. Beiji just left. We didn't do anything to him. That's right, Wukong added. He was just afraid of being eaten by us, so he left. Among the 3, Sanzang was the most despicable. At this moment, he was also smiling the most proudly. That's it. Can we leave now, officer? Hey, it's such an obvious case of murder, pig-eating. You can't possibly let them go, right? Xiao Tan said loudly to Inyanosuk. Of course, Inyanosuk replied, then looked at the 3 and said, You guys are quite bold. After making such a confession, do you still think you can leave? That's right. Even Xiongji shouted with righteous indignation. Look, 2 Mei-chan's eyes have become sharp. In such an atmosphere, among all the people present, only one showed a serious expression. When Feng Bujue watched the Japanese, he still had a deep impression of the story, Journey to the West, The Journey's End. To be honest, this story was extremely scary. If one didn't read it carefully, they might not understand. If one looked at it more seriously, they might find it funny. But if one thought about it more deeply, it would make one's scalp tingle. Why did the seemingly harmonious master and disciple trio show all kinds of morbid persistence when they reached the finish line of India? Why was Sanzang still able to walk as if he was flying even though his butt was smashed twice by the wishbone and was covered in blood? Why did Sanzang not chant the golden hoop when Sun Wukong was clearly wearing it? Why was Wu Jing's mouth full of sharp teeth when they were both monsters? But Sun Wukong didn't. Why did their faces change at specific times? Why was Sanzang, a human, able to drop extremely long claws in the end? Could these physiological changes be related to the fact that they had eaten Beiji? If they only ate their companions because of hunger, why didn't they eat the white horse? Finally, at the end, was Beiji, who was the first to pass the finish line, a soul? Or was it an illusion? What's going on? Feng Bujue looked at the 3 people opposite him and thought quickly. Their fearless attitude. What are they going to do? His expression changed slightly. Are they going to use force to escape? With that in mind, Brother Ju immediately tried to remember what kind of powers Sanzang and his disciple had in the Japanese world. But these 3 are just the scumbag master and disciple from the comic. They probably have nothing to do with the real journey to the West. If I'm not mistaken, their powers are: Wu Jing's shoes are extraordinarily long, Sanzang's hat can be lengthened, Wukong's club can be lengthened, and the 3 of them can extend their fingernails to become very long claws. He thought for a moment and rejected this speculation. It shouldn't be. If they wanted to make a move, they would have done it long ago. Before we came here, they were 3 against 1. The success rate at that time must be higher than now. Thinking of this, he muttered, could it be the method they're going to use is, it seems, Mr. Officer, you still don't understand. At this moment, Wukong spoke. In this world, how could anyone kill and eat their companions? As he spoke, he looked at Xiongji, who was several meters away. For example, the bear over there. Would you eat the rabbit next to you? Xiongji's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Why would I do something so terrible? Haha, that's right. Wu Jing continued. This kind of thing obviously goes against common sense. Besides, even if we did have evil intentions towards Beiji, will we talk about it so openly in front of him? Xiao Tan. When he heard this, Feng Bujue tilted his head and whispered into Xiao Tan's ear, "Can you see it? These three guys are doing what we did before." Chapter 788. That's why our actions are clearly just acting. Sanzang took over from his two disciples and continued confidently. Actually, the truth is very simple. The three of us don't really like Ba Jie, so we've always wanted to chase him away. But this guy is too slow, so he didn't realize our ill intentions at all. So we pretended to want to eat him up and brazenly showed it in front of him, hoping to scare him away. After a period of preparation, this morning, our plan finally succeeded, Wu Kong said quickly. Wu Kong quickly continued. At the stream, we approached Ba Jie step by step, acting as if we were going to eat him. That idiot finally got scared, turned around, and ran away, never to return. Now that I think about it, that anonymous police call was most likely made by Ba Jie himself, right? Wu Jing added. After he was chased away by us, he vaguely sensed the truth. Holding a grudge, he used this method to take revenge. Ha! Sanzang laughed arrogantly. Do you understand now? Mr. Police Officer, there's no such thing as an incident here. Even if there is, it's just a false police report incident, and the culprit is not us. That makes sense. At this time, Tumei's sharp gaze had returned to normal. She rubbed her chin and said, in this sparsely populated outskirts, the probability of there being a witness nearby when the crime was committed is very low. Also, it's strange to report an incident anonymously. See, even that little girl with terrible eyes said so. Sanzang pointed at Tumei and said to Inyanosuk, can we go now? Inyanosuk nodded slightly, seemingly hesitant. Huh. Suddenly, Brother Ju laughed loudly and looked at Inyanosuk. Police Officer Inyanosuk, do you really believe what they said? This was not a question at all, so he did not wait for Ba Jie to answer. He turned to Tumei and said, and Tumei-chan, as a detective, is it really okay to let a guilty person go just like that? What the? Hearing this, Sanzang, Wu Kong, and Wu Jing all looked at Brother Ju. Sanzang immediately gritted his teeth and glared at Feng Bujue. I say, that kid who looks like a cat. You've been up to no good since just now. What's the meaning of this? Cut the crap, you baldy. Feng Bujue put one paw on his waist and pointed at Sanzang. Do you think you could get away with it? That does seem to work. Xiaodan could not help but grumble internally. Haven't the two of us helped Xiong Ji escape punishment 3 times already? What? You despicable brat. How dare you call me bald? Sanzang shouted in a frenzy. This old monk's hair is shaved. It's not shed. Why would you care about that kind of thing? Wu Jing said coldly. In the end, you all become bald. Before he finished speaking, Sanzang had already waved his arm and pointed at him. If you want to talk about baldness, that Kappa over there is the real baldy. Hey, Kappa was born with this hairstyle. Wu Jing, who was still calm, suddenly changed his expression and shouted at Sanzang. From Kappa's point of view, my hair is still very thick. You obviously care about it too, and this kind of sophistry is too childish. Wu Kong narrowed his eyes and looked at his two companions. His red scarf was already messed up in the wind. Shut up, you stinky monkey. The next second, Wu Jing turned to Wu Kong and said, You're obviously a monk too. Why are you the only one with hair all over your head? It doesn't make sense no matter how you think about it. After you reminded me. Sanzang also turned to look at Wu Kong, revealing a covetous look. Even Beiji is bald. Why is a stinky monkey like you an exception? Because I'm a monkey, you bastard, Wu Kong said in shock. Isn't it natural for a monkey to have hair all over his body? You don't have to explain. When Sanzang said this, he had already taken out a razor from somewhere. There's no time to lose. I'll help you get rid of the 3,000 strands of worry now. Hey, what are you doing? Wu Kong panicked, and his face was filled with horror. Wu Jing, help me catch him. Sanzang saw that Wu Kong was about to run, so he quickly called for his teammates to help. Wu Jing's movements were indeed fast. Before his master could finish speaking, he had already clamped down on Wu Kong's hands from behind. Stop, stop! Wu Kong struggled and shouted, Bastard! You two baldies are actually on the same side and attacking the same person. Officer, you saw it all, right? Seeing this scene, Fong Bujua walked over to Inyanosuk's side expressionlessly and said, Facts speak louder than words. These three guys are born with serious violent tendencies. They will draw their swords and fight over the slightest thing. Moreover, they don't care if the other party is their partner at all. Or rather, the more they are partners, the more they have no scruples. Inyanosuk nodded and said, That makes sense. At this time, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp again. As expected of Mao Taro, he easily exposed their true nature. Otherwise, we would have all been fooled. So scary. Violence is the worst. Miao Mei covered her eyes and screamed. Xiongji walked over and said, Miao Mei-chan, don't be afraid, come into my arms. You'd better know your place. Xiao Tan was quick to react. He leaped forward and blocked Xiongji's path, stopping the latter's suicidal attempt before it was too late. On the other side, when they saw everyone's reaction, the master and disciple trio panicked again. Hey, wait, we are just fooling around. Yes, that's right, we are always fooling around like this. But this time, Inyanosuk wouldn't give them another chance. He stepped forward and took out the rope. All right, if you have anything to say, follow me to the police station. Wait a minute. Seeing this, Wu Jing, who was the calmest among the three of them, was still struggling. Officer, no matter how suspicious our words and actions are, it doesn't make sense to arrest us just based on an anonymous phone call and presumption. Well said. Sanzang was excited again. Where's the evidence? Where is the decisive evidence? You guys! At this moment, the wretched Xiongji stepped forward with a righteous face and shouted, What evidence? I have hundreds of arrest experience, and I have never made such a request. Facing the result of arrest calmly is a real gentleman. Where did this naked bear come from? He has been there since just now. He seems to be a pervert. Have we been taught a lesson by a pervert? It seemed that even the three of them didn't care about Xiongji. The three of you. Don't be too arrogant. At this moment, Tumei suddenly stepped forward and stared at them with a scary look. How dare you look down on Xiongji Kuin's rich arrest experience? She was murderous. Hurry up and kneel down and apologize to me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been born. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for breathing the same air as you. I'm sorry. Please forgive my rudeness and give me a chance to be a pervert. They knelt down neatly and uttered these three sentences almost simultaneously. Of course, that stinky bear's words are just the lamentations of a pervert. It's not a point of view worth agreeing with. A second later, Tu Mei changed the topic. Evidence is indeed very important. As she said this, she took a few steps to the side and stopped in front of the white horse. Mr. Horse, may I ask if Ba Jia was attacked by the three of them? That's right. They ate Ba Jia. The white horse replied straightforwardly. What the? Sanzang and his disciple were shocked. So you can talk. Cats, dogs, rabbits, and bears can all talk. Monkeys and kappa can also talk. Why can't I talk? The white horse asked in a matter-of-fact tone. Tu Mei-chan, the domineering famous reasoning. The low voice of the narrator inexplicably whispered into the ears of the two players. Then, Tu Mei snapped her fingers. Yo, the case has been successfully solved. Chapter 789. Side quest completed. Extra reward from the special scenario. Gain 2% of current level EXP. After Sanzang's group was escorted away by Inyanosuk, Fong Bujue and Wang Tanji heard the system announcement. They opened the game menu to take a look. The quest to help Tu Mei solve the case of the murder without a body had been ticked off. From the result, it looked like the reward for this side quest was EXP and not skill points like in a main quest. Xiongji's aggro did not increase due to the case being solved. Very good. This mission is much easier than the main quest. Feng Bujua commented as he looked at the game menu. But, Brother Bujua, you're really good. When the situation took a turn for the worse, you used a simple provocation to turn the situation around, Xiao Tan said. Since I have some understanding of the original work, I have a rough idea how to deal with this character from Sun and Universe. Feng Bujua said darkly. Other than a few characters with normal intelligence and morals, like Tsung Liankun, Kawaii, Tsung Liankun, Hirata-kun, Hirata Hino, and Sister Ono, most of the other characters have a certain level of comical trait. He explained seriously. In other words, when necessary, you only need to ask them in a roundabout way, and they will say or do things that are full of flaws. The so-called comical trait, huh? Xiao Tan's expression turned serious as well. Yes, it's like the urge to step on a banana peel and fall over. Feng Bujua said, most of the characters in this world have this trait, including Tu Mei. She often casually asks Xiongji something like, there are no cases recently, so why don't you jump off the building? In her staring expression, these are the traits of this character. She doesn't even realize the existence of this trait, so she can't change it. Oh, Xiao Tan nodded. I think I understand why Xiongji would commit so many crimes and get arrested so often. Mao Taro, Sun Taro, it's time to go. While they were talking, Tu Mei, Miao Mei, and Xiongji had regrouped. Then, Miao Mei, who was closest to them, turned around to call them. Oh, coming. Feng Bujua answered loudly and then walked over with Xiao Tan. There is no transfer this time, Wang Tanji whispered as he walked. That means something will happen next, Feng Bujua said softly. 30 minutes later, the five friends came to a place with beautiful scenery in terms of the style of this world. The place was full of flowers, water, mountains, and flowers. There was a gentle breeze, and birds were singing. It was indeed a good place to have a picnic. The five of them walked for a long time and were a little tired. They could rest on the grass and have a meal. Oh no! I ran too fast to catch up with everyone, and the honey in my bag flowed out. Everything is sticky now. As soon as Miao Mei spread the picnic cloth on the ground, Xiongji couldn't wait to open his backpack. But the moment he opened it, he said this with a look of annoyance. What an idiot! Tu Mei looked at him condescendingly. Don't expect me to share the food with you. Xiongji felt wronged. Too cold, Tu Mei-chan. Okay. Xiao Tan felt sorry for Xiongji, so he patted him on the shoulder and said, I'll share some of my food with you. You're such a good person. Xiongji immediately looked at Wang Tanji with grateful eyes. Xiongji's hatred towards you dashed 2%. At the same time, a system prompt sounded in Xiao Tan's ear. Oh, so I can lower his aggro toward me like this. Xiao Tan thought to himself. Even though I have no idea what this aggro level means, it feels like the lower the level, the better. As he thought about it, he bent his knees and sat on the picnic cloth. He took off the backpack on his shoulder. Since the last transfer, Xiao Tan and Brother Ju had backpacks on their shoulders. Long before they met Sanzang and his disciple, the two of them had checked each other's backpacks. The backpacks were filled with very ordinary food. Let me see. Xiao Tan took out the items in the backpack one by one. There were 2 lunchboxes and 2 boxes of drinks. The drinks were packaged in paper boxes with straws. When Brother Ju helped Xiao Tan check his backpack earlier, he analyzed that Sun Taro's winged hand could not open the bottle cap, and its beak could not drink through the opening of the bottle, so it could only drink packaged drinks. I have 2 lunchboxes. I'll share one with you. After Xiao Tan took out the items in the backpack, he picked one up and handed it to Xiongji. Thank you so much. Xiongji was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. He took it and said, I will definitely repay your kindness. There's no need for that. Xiao Tan replied with a hollow laugh. At this moment, he suddenly felt that, even if he did not mention the various crimes that he had committed, Xiongji was quite an adorable character. Of course, this temporary favorable impression of him would soon disappear without a trace. 5 minutes later, Bunny Mei-chan, you didn't even chew the fish eggs properly before eating the black carp in one bite. Xiongji couldn't help but reveal a very difficult expression while looking at Bunny May's eating manners. You're eating other people's food, yet you're still commenting on other people's eating methods? May turned her head and stared at Xiongji. Hey, Xiongji is eating my food. Xiaotan thought, why does this guy sound like I'm eating her food? Oh yeah? Xiongji. Feng Bujue then said, since your backpack is stained by the honey, why don't you wash it by the river over there? Isn't it uncomfortable to carry it on your back? Plus, the longer this stuff is left there, the harder it is to wash it clean. Ah, that makes sense. Xiongji was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, then I'll go wash it. After saying that, he stood up, picked up the backpack on the grass, and ran toward the small river more than 10 meters away. Brother Ju, what are you? Xiaotan turned his head to look at Feng Bujue and asked tentatively. Try to minimize his contact with Tu Mei and Miao Mei. Brother Ju lowered his voice and replied, just in case he accidentally says something incriminating. Good idea, Xiaotan also said in a low voice. Miao Mei-chan. On the other side, Tu Mei seemed to have noticed something and asked Miao Mei, why aren't you wearing socks? Oh, Miao Mei frowned and replied, actually, my house was burglarized last night. Upon hearing the word burglarized, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan's expressions instantly became serious. Their first reaction was, Xiongji must have done it. Was it a burglary case? Did you call the police? Tu Mei continued. Do you need me to know? Tu Mei-chan, Miao Mei explained, my socks were the only things that were stolen. Nothing else was lost. Upon hearing this, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp again. What did you say? She shouted and suddenly turned her head to look at Xiongji, who was standing far away. Then, she got up and rushed towards him. Don't be rash. Brother Ju and Xiao Tan reacted almost at the same time and chased after her. You perverted bear. Tu Mei ran towards Xiongji and shouted. Xiongji, who was washing his backpack by the river, heard the sound and turned around. He was shocked. What's wrong? What's going on? Yesterday, a burglar snuck into Tu Mei's house and stole her socks. Tu Mei said as she ran. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of Xiongji. Hey, what does that have to do with me? Why are you running towards me with such a suspicious expression? Xiongji asked, sweating profusely. Based on my deduction, Bunny Mei's eyes were glowing with a golden light. There's a 500% chance that you did it, you stinky bear, she said as she stepped forward and grabbed Xiongji's arm. It's on your hand. Hurry up and hand it over. No, it wasn't me. I didn't. Xiongji tried to defend himself as he struggled to step back. But to his surprise, a few seconds later, the soles of his feet slipped, and with a plop, he fell into the river. Chapter 790. Xiongji screamed and fell into the river. At this moment, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji both gasped. They were afraid that Xiongji would be washed away by the water or drown. If that happened, they wouldn't be able to complete the main quest. Fortunately, Xiongji's head popped out of the water and he started to breathe heavily. As the river wasn't very deep and the current wasn't very fast, Xiongji floated up again after a few moments. That scared me, Xiaotan said as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. Phew. Brother Ju also sighed in relief and said, thankfully, he woke up in time. I almost kicked you off the cliff earlier. Why did you do that? Xiaotan asked. Of course it was to send you down to save someone, Feng Bujue replied. Let's not talk about whether or not the system would let you kick me. Xiaotan narrowed his eyes and looked at Brother Ju. If I want to save someone, I usually jump down myself. Don't you know that cats are afraid of water? Feng Bujue said confidently. You make it sound like falcons can swim. Xiaotan's mouth twitched. Wait, anyway, bears are animals that can swim. What are we worried about? Yeah. Feng Bujue touched his chin and said, because of its abnormal attributes, we've neglected the basic characteristics of animal anthropomorphism. While the two were talking, Miao Mei ran over from afar. At this time, Xiongji had also climbed out of the river. That was close. I thought I was going to die. Xiongji knelt on the grass as the river water dripped from his body, making him look like a mess. The next second, he suddenly thought of something. Ah, my backpack. He turned back to look at the river. It has been washed away by the river. At this moment, Xiongji's face was full of grievances and tears were dripping from the corners of his eyes. He looked very pitiful. Forget it, Xiongji Cohen. Xiaodan was still naive and kind. He couldn't bear to see this scene, so he went forward to comfort her. Anyway, it's just a sticky school bag. It's fine as long as you're fine. Tu Mei-chan, you've gone too far. Even Miao Mei said to Tu Mei, even if my house was robbed, the thief may not necessarily be Xiongji Cohen. It's okay. Miao Mei-chan. Xiongji's hands were on the ground as he maintained the standard ORZ position. He said in a bitter tone, it's all because of my bad behavior, so I reap what I sow. In this atmosphere, Tu Mei was a little embarrassed. Her eyes were no longer sharp when she looked at Xiongji. On the contrary, there was a hint of guilt. Tu Mei hesitated for a moment and said, I went too far. I'm sorry, Xiongji Cohen. As she said this, she took out a handkerchief from her pocket and handed it to him. Your fur is soaked. Use this handkerchief to wipe it. However, at this moment, Xiongji's expression returned to its wretched state without any warning. His tone also became a little arrogant. That? No need. Before he finished speaking, he had already stood up and took out 2 socks from the pockets of his pants. If you want to wipe the water, I have better things. Silence descended upon them. Under the gaze of the 4 pairs of sharp, surprised, and annoyed eyes, Xiongji nonchalantly wiped his face with a pair of pink socks embroidered with a tulip pattern. It was obviously worn by someone else. Main mission progress changed 3 days later at school. Before Brother Bujue and Xiao Tan could recover from the state of speechlessness, the mission notification and transfer came one after another. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them went from the suburbs to the classroom. They opened the mission panel and saw that Xiongji's number of arrests had jumped to 2. What's going on? Xiao Tan was shocked again. Tu Mei hasn't even called the police yet. Xiongji is already arrested? On the other hand, Feng Bujue's reaction was different from Xiao Tan's, or rather, his reaction was different from most people's. When faced with this kind of sudden and unexpected change, the first thing he usually did was not to ask others, but to ask himself. Then, he would try to use his own knowledge, reasoning, and imagination to answer the question. Even if he could not come to a definite conclusion, he could at least come up with a few reasonable and possible speculations. And the above process usually took less than 3 seconds in Feng Bujue's mind. Therefore, when Xiao Tan asked the question, Brother Ju could usually give an answer. This case is also a good example. Feng Bujue turned his head to the left and said to Xiao Tan, who was sitting next to him, it explained to us that in this scenario, Xiongji's second form of arrest. As he spoke, he looked around and quickly found Xiongji and Tu Mei at the other end of the classroom. We can't be careless. The second form of arrest? Xiao Tan repeated the key part of Brother Ju's words and then asked, like just now, the moment Xiongji showed the evidence of his crime, he was immediately treated as an arrest and immediately moved to another location. Yes, that's it, Feng Bujue said. How did this happen? Xiao Tan asked. Is it related to the side mission? He looked worried. If all the missions do this, we'll be in trouble. It has nothing to do with the side mission. Feng Bujue said the key factor is still you and me. He thought about it for 2 seconds and explained, if you want an example, the few main events that we encountered earlier were actually just training stages. They were arranged by the system to familiarize us with the basic gameplay of this scenario. In those events, until the police put Xiongji in the police car and took him away from the crime scene, we were able to find a way to reverse the situation. He paused for half a second. But after that incident, I'm afraid the situation will change. At this stage, as long as Xiongji successfully makes that kind of confession, the system will announce his arrest, and the case will be closed. In other words, Xiao Tan said thoughtfully, from now on, waiting for Tu Mei to call the police to change her mind won't work anymore. We have to stop Xiongji before he turns his intention into action and nip it in the bud. Once he does, it will be too late for us to cover it up. Yes, Feng Bujue replied. That's too difficult. Xiao Tan said this guy is like a ticking time bomb. He could explode at any moment. We can't read his mind, so how can we? There are hints. Feng Bujue interrupted Xiao Tan's complaint and gave a constructive response. For example, in the case earlier, from the transfer to Xiongji's exposure, we received more than one hint. He raised his cat finger and said, first, when he appeared, he was wearing a bra and said the worst lines. That was already a warning for us. Second, now that we think about it, the reason he was late was most likely because he overslept because he went out to steal something the night before. Also, when Miao Mei said that her socks were stolen, we should have thought of it. The item must be on Xiongji. Even if it wasn't in his pants pocket, it must be somewhere else, such as stuffing it in his mouth or clamping it in the beep door. He sighed. Sigh. That's why I said we were too careless. After all the previous incidents, we shouldn't have had any illusions about Xiongji. In this regard, we are not as good as Tu Mei. Now that you mention it, Xiao Tan said, we did have a chance to stop him before he took out the socks. Anyway, the following cases will be like this. Feng Bujue said, we have to meow. At this time, Miao Mei, Chan's Japanese screech sounded again, interrupting their conversation. The two of them looked at each other and sighed. Then, they ran towards the direction of the shout. Chapter 791. It was unknown who made the rule that every time Miao Mei was the victim of an incident, she would ask Bunny Mei for help. This time was no exception. She ran in front of Bunny Mei with a terrified expression and said, Bunny Mei-chan, bad news. What's wrong? Miao Mei-chan. Tu Mei looked at Miao Mei calmly. Every time Miao Mei went to Tu Mei for help, Xiongji would always be next to Tu Mei. Yeah, Miao Mei-chan, what happened? Xiongji asked with his usual innocent expression. It's like this, Miao Mei said as she took out a card that was slightly smaller than an envelope and handed it to Tu Mei. Recently, the very active Strange Thief Bears sent a criminal notice card to my house. Hey, is there really such a thing? Those strange thieves with strange names. Xiao Tan heard this and couldn't help but whisper. And he really did send a criminal notice? Yeah. Feng Bujue was expressionless as he continued softly. A person who would do such a thing. He gave Xiao Tan a look. Who do you think it is? Do I need to say? Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he replied. The only bears in this class is Xiongji. The two of them were whispering to each other, so the other three couldn't hear them. At this time, Xiongji was looking at Miao Mei nervously, as if he didn't know anything about the case. He repeated in shock, What? What did you say? He looked serious. Strange thief bears _I. He especially steals young women's underwear and clothes. Sometimes he even steals stationery and things from the trash can. He's an unforgivable thief. When he said this, he seemed to have noticed something from the corner of his eyes. He looked up. What greeted him was a sharp gaze. Why are you looking at me like that? Tu Mei-chan. Xiongji broke out in a cold sweat when he was faced with Tu Mei's what a great stare. Are you bears _I? Tu Mei didn't shy away from expressing her suspicions and questioned Xiongji face to face. No. Xiongji replied in a very sincere tone. If it were me, I wouldn't use the name bear, right? No matter how you look at it, isn't it too obvious? Tu Mei-chan, how about? Miao Mei said, you should take a look at the crime notice card first. Okay. Tu Mei took the card and looked at it in front of her eyes. At this moment, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji quietly came over and stood behind Xiongji and Tu Mei respectively. Brother Ju was already mentally prepared. As long as he found out that Xiongji had the slightest sign of seeking death, he would immediately stop him. Is this the crime notice card of Strange Thief Bears _? Tu Mei first turned the card over to look at the back. After confirming that it was blank, she turned back to the front and looked at it carefully. The card was roughly divided into two parts. The top and left sides of the card could be regarded as the upper half. There was a rectangular area and a right-angled triangle area, respectively, that was painted light blue. On the top, there was a rather conspicuous and large English font, bears_I. On the left side, there was an orange, rather concise design of a bear head logo, a hexagonal head, two semicircular ears, one open and one closed eyes, and a small round nose. As for the rest, the bottom right trapezoidal area of the card could be regarded as the lower half. From top to bottom, there were 5 lines of crooked words. The content was frowny face to meow, Mei-chan, tonight. I will pay you a visit. We'll take some things. Number 1 wish, underwear. Number 2 wish, clothes or stationery. Number 3 wish, if there are none of the above items, replace them with various other things. This guy, Feng Bujua, tiptoed and looked over to Mei's shoulder. He squinted at the content of the card and thought, it's still a bit obvious. Fortunately, he wasn't stupid enough to write his name this time. It's written in such detail. After Mei finished reading the content of the card, she held the card in one hand and rested her chin on the other hand. Why did bears_I make a special notice of his crime? Xiongji continued in a serious manner. Presumably, when he saw the victim on tenterhooks, he would be very happy. He's simply an unforgivable villain. You shameless thing. Even Xiao Tan was cursing in his heart. You're just describing your inner thoughts. And you know that it's the behavior of a scumbag, right? He really regretted sharing food with Xiongji. Whether it was an instinctive sympathy between two people or a person's sympathy for a cute anthropomorphic cartoon animal, Xiao Tan felt like he had been cheated. Speaking of which, after staring at the card for a few seconds, Mei frowned slightly and commented, "This illustration is really disgusting. There's no beauty at all. It's simply disgusting. How dare he send this kind of thing out?" When Xiongji heard this, his expression changed abruptly. He seemed to have suffered a considerable blow. He said sadly, "This is myself, Squeak. Lala." Before Xiongji could finish his sentence, 2 cat claws appeared on both sides of his head. Just as he was about to say, "This is the work of my confidence," Feng Bujue stuck 2 cat fingers into his mouth and pulled on his cheeks forcefully. This caused air to leak out from his lips, and he was unable to speak. "What are you doing?" Mao Taro. Mei saw this scene and looked at Brother Ju with a puzzled expression. Haha, nothing. Feng Bujue smiled. "I suddenly want to play a prank, After he finished speaking, he still had no intention of taking his fingers out of Xiongji's mouth. "Is it really fun to put your fingers in that perverted bear's mouth?" Mei continued. "Maybe if you get his saliva on you, you'll be infected with perverted attributes." Xiongji could still make this sound with his mouth. "Oh, I almost forgot. You also have a history of peeping and violence." Mei paused for 2 seconds and said, "Maybe you're already a pervert." It's hard to say." Feng Bujue used a tone like a stick reading, usually when interpreting dialogue without emotional input, to respond to Mei's vicious attack. He then replied with 4 fake laughs that couldn't be any more fake. As he laughed, he gave Xiao Tan a look. The latter understood and took a step towards him to help him drag Xiongji away. Although Mei and Mei felt that the 3 boys' behavior was a bit strange. This was elementary school, after all. Meaningless fights between boys were a common phenomenon. Therefore, they had no intention of stopping them. They just continued to study the crime notice card. 2 minutes later, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji dragged Xiongji to the school's male toilet. At this time, there was no one else in the toilet except for the 3 of them. What are you doing?" Xiongji looked at Mao Taro and Sun Taro with sweat all over his face. "Do you want to fight with me? I'm not going to beat around the bush with you." Feng Bujue didn't answer his question. He asked directly, "Xiongji Kuan, the strange thief bears_I, is that you?" Xiongji took half a step back. No, I already said it wasn't me. Don't worry, we won't expose you," Brother Ju said with a smile. "We're not going to call the police." He then turned to look at Xiao Tan. "Right, Sun Taro?" That's right." Xiao Tan seemed to be a little distracted. At this time, He was also silently analyzing the current situation in his mind. Since the system notification and the transition didn't come, this means that the incident of the strange thief bears underscore I isn't over yet. What should we do next? Do we have to wait until nighttime to ambush Xiongji near Miao Mei's house? Also, after the failure of the main mission last time, the system didn't give us an hour to rest. Was I wrong from the beginning, or did the system cancel the rest time after the difficulty increased? Chapter 792. Even if you say so, Xiongji still did not give in. He said sincerely, "The thief bears underscore I is really not me." He had to admit that as a criminal who easily exposed evidence of his crimes, his acting skills were worthy of praise. That's enough, Xiongji Kun. Feng Bujue showed an evil smile. The notes on the card have already betrayed you. He paused. If I'm not mistaken, that criminal notice card just now, you asked your neighbor, Mr. Wong, to write it for you, right? Brother Ju's ability to trick people was superb. He had a set of corresponding methods to deal with targets of all kinds of IQ and personality. Now, he used a set of effective methods to deal with people like Xiongji. He pretended to be very confident and set a set of wrong inferences. He had to speak quickly and confidently. He understood that in this kind of funny universe, as long as the atmosphere during the exchange reached a certain subtle critical point, it would lead to nonsense. Xiongji replied loudly, "I wrote it myself with a pen in my left hand." Slap your face. Before Xiongji's voice died away, Xiaotan flapped his wings. "I'm sorry." Xiongji, who had been coerced into confessing and slapped in the face, knelt down. "Please forgive me. Strange robbers. Crime previews. It was all because I watched a few episodes of Detective Tadpole on TV. No matter what, I just sent a card. I didn't." Ugh. At this moment, Feng Bujui used the gorilla strangling to clamp down on Xiongji and interrupted. "Don't avoid the important when you're explaining the problem. I'm going to die." Xiongji's expression was painful, and his voice was hoarse. "I can't breathe." A few seconds later, Brother Ju let go of him. Trash with a combat strength of only 5. Xiongji knelt on the ground and panted. So painful. I think I saw the Three Roads River just now. Aiko the penguin is waving at you from the other side of the river. Brother Ju smiled darkly as he continued. What? Xiongji's expression changed again. He was shocked. Why did you suddenly mention Aiko the penguin? What do you think? At this moment, Xiao Tan had a vague idea of Brother Ju's strategy, so he put on a stern expression and said to Xiongji, "Do you think we'll just let the matter of Aiko the penguin go?" Xiongji's face was orange because his skin tone was like that, and his whole body trembled as he replied, What are you talking about? The murderer who killed Aiko the penguin was obviously Ape G. Brother Ju interrupted. He laughed dryly. "Don't forget, the person who made Ape G the scapegoat through inference," Xiao Tan continued. "It was the two of us. We knew from the beginning that you were the murderer." Feng Bujue put his cat face in front of Xiongji and said in a low voice, "So, you'd better be smart," Xiao Tan added. "If we can arrest the innocent Ape G, we can also arrest a criminal like you." Why are you doing this?" Xiongji's face was filled with fear as he stammered. Slap your bare face." Feng Bujue also slapped him. "Don't ask questions without permission." "I'm sorry." Xiongji immediately knelt on the ground and replied respectfully, "Lord Mao Taro, Lord Sun Taro, please enlighten me. Even the way you address me has changed." Xiao Tan thought to himself, to be honest, the speed at which this perverted bear lost his moral integrity made him gasp in amazement. A few seconds later, Brother Ju gave Xiao Tan a look. Then he squatted down so that his eyes were level with Xiongji's and said, "Listen carefully, Xiongji." At this moment, Wang Tangji and everyone who was familiar with Feng Bujue should know that Brother Ju's brainwashing was about to begin again. From a criminal's point of view, you're too lousy. Brother Ju sneered. As a perverted gentleman, Don't you think it's too embarrassing to be arrested all the time? Lord Mautaro, what do you mean? Xiongji asked tentatively. Let me teach you. Feng Bujua said, the ultimate skill of how to get away with it, damn. So this is your purpose. Xiaotan couldn't help but cast a contemptuous look at Brother Ju. The corner of his mouth twitched as he thought to himself, but, just like Tu Mei's stare, Xiongji's brainless self-detonation and idiotic crime are basic characteristics of his character. Can it really be corrected? Is there really such a skill? Xiongji looked expectantly at Brother Ju and asked. Feng Bujue showed a very provocative and bewitching smile. As long as you listen to me and do as I say, I can guarantee that you can continue to commit crimes and won't be arrested again. Hey, is it really okay for a protagonist to say something like that? Xiaodan finally couldn't help but complain. You'll be a bad influence on the innocent and kind children and teenagers. Innocent and kind are adjectives that are better left for the fictional heroines in Korean dramas. The people who are reading this book don't have any moral integrity at all. Feng Bujue replied calmly. The lives of those guys, when they reach the end, they must see some embarrassing scenes flashing before their eyes. He paused for a moment and said, as a protagonist, do you think it's easy for me to stay in this kind of story for 16 chapters? Other protagonists eat and drink well, kill bosses, devour treasures, and have dozens of beautiful harems with different personalities. They live a life of debauchery. Even Kuruma Rokuro, the fictional detective in the Japanese drama 33 Minutes Detective, has a beautiful assistant. But me, I can only take a bird with me and a good-for-nothing with a bare face. Plus, there are still 17 chapters to go. He stared at Xiaotan. In this kind of situation, you're still criticizing my way of doing things. Don't you feel ashamed? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Xiaotan lowered his head and showed a sympathetic and guilty look. Very well, let's get back to business. After Brother Ju finished lecturing Xiaotan, he turned his head again and looked at Xiongji. So, Xiongji-kun, since you've already released the crime notice, it's just right. Tonight, you'll act under my guidance. Chapter 793. Sigh. 2 paragraphs ago, he was still saying something like, is it easy to be the main character? But after the next chapter, he's left me with the whole mess. At 4 p.m., Xiaotan carried his backpack and walked down the street alone, mumbling to himself. He said something like, since there is still a long time before midnight, I alone will be enough to keep an eye on Xiongji. You can move around freely in this scenario. Perhaps you'll be able to accept some hidden missions or get some items. That's basically giving up on me. As he mumbled to himself, he lowered his head to look at the map in his hands. Also, this map sure is sloppy. With this, will I really be able to find Miao Mei's home and meet up with him? Hey, you over there. Just as Xiaotan lowered his head to study the map, a rather feminine voice came from behind him. Xiaotan's first reaction was, a salesman. In real life, Wang Tanji was the type of person who would be stopped by people on the street. Because he looked like a very easygoing person, people who sold insurance, peddled gym cards, promoted all kinds of unlicensed products, and self-proclaimed talent scouts all liked to talk to him. There was also random street interviews from TV stations, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers, chatting up strangers of unknown gender, etc. Xiaotan was such a person. When people first saw him, they would feel warm and safe. This was an innate presence. Even though it had something to do with physical appearance, it was not completely dependent on one's appearance. If there was a negative example, Feng Bujue was one. Brother Ju was definitely not ugly. The woman in white at the south gate of Harem City gave him a very pertinent comment. Forgive me for being blunt, but when it comes to appearance, I'm afraid the young master is still a little bit lacking. Since it was a little bit lacking, it meant that he was not that far off. Considering the fact that there were no appas in Harem City, their sense of beauty should be quite reliable. However, when Feng Bujue walked down the street, he was rarely approached by strangers. Even the workers who passed flyers to passers-by, when they passed Brother Ju a piece of paper, They would move their eyes away, and they would appear rather nervous. In the same situation, if Xiao Tan walked down the street with a smile on his face, people would think this handsome man had run into something good. But if Feng Bujua walked down the street with the same smile, people would think this handsome man had just solved a locked room murder. "Hello, classmate, do you have some time?" When Xiao Tan turned around, he saw the figures of two men. These two were humans. He was a real human being, not an anthropomorphic animal. The person who spoke to Xiao Tan looked about 40 or 50. He was wearing a light green kimono. He had light brown hair and a stubble on his chin. The person beside him looked to be in his early 20s and was wearing a beige kimono. He had a head of black hair and was fair and clean. He stared with a pair of dead fish eyes and carried a wooden box tied to a straw rope on his chest. "Yes." Xiao Tan hesitated for 2 seconds before replying, "Sure." He had been wandering around aimlessly, trying to find some side quests or hidden quests, so he had plenty of time on his hands. Side mission has been triggered. After Xiao Tan said the word "yes," the system notification came. He immediately opened the game menu and looked at the mission panel. The words, "Witness the victory between Banana Mulberry and Tsing Liangjun as a referee," appeared in front of his eyes. Oh! When Xiao Tan saw the mission content, he took 2 seconds to react. He thought to himself, from the names and appearances of these two, could they be Matsuo Banana and Kawaii Tsang Liangjun? Matsuo Banana was a famous haiku master in the Edo period with the name Haiku Sage. Kawaii Tsang Liangjun was a haiku poet of the same era. He had once traveled Oku in the northern continent with Matsuo Banana as his disciple. He was also one of Matsuo Banana's 10 disciples, one of the 10 sages of Banana Mulberry. Xiao Tan's familiarity with Niwa was far inferior to Brother Ju's, but his general knowledge of history was still quite good. He knew a little about the historical figures of various countries, so he wondered, aren't these two master and disciple? What's with the victory and defeat? With this in mind, the expression in his eyes changed slightly. However, in this amusing universe, nothing will be strange. I'll take a look first. That's great, classmate. Oh, by the way, let me introduce myself. When Banana saw that Xiao Tan had agreed, he smiled and said, "I'm the famous Matsuo Banana." To actually say that you're famous in front of someone you've just met. Xiao Tan didn't know what kind of person Banana was in the Niwa world. When he heard this, he complained inwardly, wait, even in front of an acquaintance. Forget it. 2 seconds later, Xiao Tan smiled awkwardly and pretended to be a little surprised. "Hey, are you the famous Matsuo Banana?" "Ha. Yes, that's me. Do you want me to sign on your clothes?" Banana asked happily. Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and replied, That won't be necessary. May I know why you stopped me?" Xiao Tan quickly steered the topic back to business, wanting to complete the mission as soon as possible. "Oh, by the way, it's like this." Banana pointed at Tseng Liang beside him. "That man with bad eyesight over there is my disciple, Tseng Liangjun. Slap your bare face." Just as Banana finished speaking, Tseng Liang gave him a slap from the side behind him. Banana screamed and turned his neck more than 90 degrees. However, he recovered in 2 seconds and looked at Xiao Tan again. With a threatening gaze and tone, he said, "Did you see anything just now?" "No, I'm a little farsighted. I didn't see anything." Xiao Tan looked up at the sky and replied against his will. "That's good." Banana's eyes were filled with tears as he said solemnly, "The banana legend of this land still needs you to praise it. Thank you for your trouble. Rely on me." The corner of Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he replied, "Speaking of which, banana legend or something, what the hell is that?" That's why I called out to you." As Banana spoke, he began to explain, "Actually, just now, Tsing Liangjun and I each composed a haiku, a type of classical short poem in Japan. It's composed of a total of 17 syllables. It has strict requirements for the format and is restricted by the G language." At this moment, Tseng Liang quickly said to Xiao Tan, "What I made was strong and unrestrained Pine Island. Du and Xiang borrowed the vermilion robe. Don't let the scenery disappear in vain." After he finished speaking, Banana said, "And what I made was, although it was extremely itchy just now, it's fine now." Hey! Xiao Tan was alarmed when he heard that. What's the latter part? This shouldn't be a problem with the system's translation, right? Even if I haven't learned Japanese, I can tell that there's a world of difference between the two parts. Classmate, I just want to find a bystander to judge which part is better. Before Banana could finish his sentence, he proudly recited, "But if you ask me, if my haiku is 100, Tseng Liangjuan's haiku is probably 2. Oh no, it's vomit. Ha, vomit. Aha, ah." As he spoke, he even giggled foolishly. "I'll slap your bare face again." The next second, Tseng Liangjun used another slap to stop Banana's foolish actions. Holy sh*t. Can the attributes of one of them be any more obvious? Xiao Tan felt pressured as he watched from the side. He thought to himself also, does the outcome of the battle between the two of them really need an existence like a referee to judge? Classmate, Banana quickly covered his swollen left cheek and acted as if nothing had happened as he leaned in front of Xiao Tan. That's the general situation. Tell me, whose haiku do you think is better, Tseng Liangjuan's or mine? Say it. Then praise the legend of Banana. Tseng Liangjun. Xiao Tan didn't even wait for Banana to finish his sentence before he decisively gave an answer. Oft, before he could finish his sentence, Banana instantly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the side of the road. "You should give up now, Basen," Tseng Liangjun said coldly as he stood behind Banana. "That, classmate, although I don't know your name." Banana didn't seem to have given up. He came in front of Xiao Tan once again and said, "I beg of you, reconsider carefully again. This guy sure is thick-skinned." Xiao Tan's face was covered in cold sweat. He looked at Ba Jiao and thought to himself, "You don't know my name because you didn't ask for my name and didn't give me the chance to introduce myself, right? And that kind of haiku of yours, the more you think about it and think about it carefully, the more you will feel that it is so cheap." "Ah, I got it." Suddenly, Banana's eyes lit up. He took out a rather thick piece of cardboard from somewhere and handed it to Xiao Tan. "If you consider it carefully, I can give this to you. Are you trying to bribe me?" Xiao Tan muttered softly as he took the item from the other party. "Yes, if it's really a very good prop, I can take the test." His words came to an abrupt halt because he realized that there was only Banana's signature on the piece of cardboard. What was even more ridiculous was that there was a bright red lipstick mark beside the signature. "Please put it away." At that instant, Xiao Tan's blackened state suddenly came online. "Even if you kneel down and beg me, I won't accept it. Enough is enough, Ba-san." At this point, Tseng Liangjun couldn't stand it any longer. He went forward and grabbed Banana's collar. "Leave quickly, Ba-san. Don't cause trouble for others." Wait. Tseng Liangjun. At that moment, Banana flipped over and stood up straight. "No, Tseng Liangjun. Oh no, Lord Tseng Liangjun." Another forceful slap made Banana change the way he addressed his disciple. Let's duel. Chapter 794. Duel? Sung Liang was still staring with his dead fish eyes as he calmly looked at Ba Jiao. "That's right. Let this bird-like student be the referee." Ba Jiao pointed at Xiao Tan and said, "I'm a falcon." Although he felt that it was fine to say it, Xiao Tan still corrected him. "Then, it's finally time to teach this complacent disciple a lesson." Ba Jiao ignored the duo's reaction as he continued speaking. In the next second, he took off his shirt. His kimono was a one-piece kimono. As there was a belt around his waist, even if he took off the clothes on his upper body, it wouldn't fall off. Ultimate profundity. Ba Jiao stood up with his arms bared and his legs spread apart. Then, he raised his hands and extended his palms parallel to his forearms. Following that, he was like a crab waving its pincers. He swung his arms up and down and said with a constipated expression, "Take this, Matsuo, thousand-armed guanyin. Isn't it just two hands?" Xiaotan looked at this fellow's display and felt helpless. "Ha! You must be shocked." Ba Jiao smiled smugly as he looked at Sung Liang. "This move, uses the high-speed movements of the hands to create layers of afterimages and transform into the appearance of the thousand-armed Guanin. He already said that he only has 2 hands. Sung Liang replied coldly. Eh, there are more hands? Ba Jiao was taken aback. No, Xiao Tan replied in a very certain tone. When Ba Jiao heard this, he swung his hands even faster. Then what about this? It's useless. Xiao Tan gave an even more thorough rejection. Is that so? Is that so? Ba Jiao muttered thoughtfully as his hands gradually slowed down. Then, forget it. With that said, he put on his clothes again in a split second. He revealed an expression of inspiration and said, Got it. Let's use haiku to determine the victor. Isn't this turn of events too sudden? Xiao Tan was shocked. Say, if you move your hands at the same speed as when you put on your clothes, you might be able to create an afterimage. Ahaha. Banana once again ignored Xiao Tan's words and changed into a gloomy expression. He said in a terrifying tone, The rule is, from now on, all the conversations between Sung Liangjun and I have to be carried out in a 575 format. So you're the one who set the rules. Xiao Tan muttered. I thought I was the referee. All right, let the match begin. Banana didn't let Xiao Tan finish his sentence as he interrupted loudly. On the other side, Sung Liang was as calm as ever. He quickly said, I say Banana, 5. What are the things you like to eat, 7? I love to eat sea urchins. Banana blurted out almost without thinking. After the two finished talking, silence descended. About 5 seconds later. Banana flew into a rage out of humiliation and shouted, Not yet. I haven't lost yet. As a referee, I should be the one to decide if you lose. The corner of Xiao Tan's mouth twitched as he continued. But to be honest, with such an obvious outcome, is there really a need for a referee now that things have come to this? Banana still ignored Xiao Tan and stubbornly rushed to Sung Liang. We can only swim. Let's decide the victor with swimming. He pointed to the side. Let's compete in that small river over there. Whoever swims to the boulder upstream first will win. All right, Sung Liang replied calmly. Xiao Tan wasn't worried about the young and strong Sung Liang, but Banana was really unreliable. That's too much of a stretch. Banana. He also looked at the river. The river's current is very fast. Cut the crap. Banana pulled Xiao Tan's wings and headed straight for the river. I want to compete. 2 minutes later, Wang Tanji, Matsuo Banana, Kawaii, and Seng Liang arrived at the river. Although they were in a town, such a small river still existed. As it was connected to the city's sewage pipes, the river water wasn't considered clean and the current was rather fast. Cut the crap. Let me call out for you to get ready. Just as the three of them stood by the river, Banana impatiently walked to the front. Everyone, get into position. Before he could say the word position, one of his feet had already stepped into the water. In less than half a second, his entire body slid down as he inexplicably shouted, Let's go out! Let's go out! Xiao Tan repeated in bewilderment as he watched Banana get washed away by the water. The water's rushing. Banana, who was instantly swept away by the current for more than 10 meters, finally revealed a look of panic. Wait a minute. What the hell is this? I can't swim anymore. I'm not playing anymore. Seeing this scene, Sung Liang, who was standing on the shore, still said to Xiao Tan in a lukewarm tone, Do you see that, 5? Matsuo Banana is in the river, 7. He's been washed away, 5. Why are you leisurely over there? Your master has been washed away by the water. Xiao Tan roared, Also, why are you still using 575 sentences? 15 minutes later, 2 kilometers downstream. We've walked so far and still haven't seen any trace of him. Where did he wash to? Xiao Tan muttered as he walked beside Sung Liang. The riverbed downstream has become shallow. He'll probably stop somewhere. Compared to Xiao Tan, Sung Liang's attitude was even colder. It was as if he was a stranger who had been washed away by the water. No, it should be said that he was worse than a stranger. Before the two of them could finish their sentence, a light green figure appeared in Xiao Tan's line of sight. His falcon vision was now very powerful, allowing him to see things very far away. Therefore, he could tell at a glance that it was the lower half of Banana's body that was stuck in the riverbed. To make a long story short, with Xiao Tan and Tseng Liang's combined efforts, Banana quickly came out of the river. "Banana, are you all right?" Xiao Tan asked as he looked at the disheveled Banana. After coming ashore, Banana was sprawled on the ground, covered in water. He looked like he was about to collapse. "Thanks to you, I was saved." He paused for a moment before explaining. "My head was caught by a rock on the riverbed. That's why I was floating with my feet in the air." "I say, Banana," Xiao Tan said, "you proposed a swimming duel and ended up being washed away by the water. It's already embarrassing enough. Don't expose such disgraceful details." "Nonsense." Banana was energized after catching his breath. Haiku sage Matsuo Banana jumped into the river to protect the village downstream. "I used my proud muscles to withstand the rapids. This is obviously bullsh*t. Is this also a part of the legend of Banana?" Xiaotan narrowed his eyes as he replied. However, Banana's nonsense didn't stop because of this. He continued, "However, when my disciple, Tsang Liangjun, saw this scene, he became jealous of the handsome Matsuo, Shui Wei for short. So he, shut your bare face." Tsang Liang slapped Banana to shut his mouth. "From the looks of it, your method is still effective," Xiao Tan said. "Of course," Tsang Liang replied. "Damn it." Banana was still unconvinced as he stood up with a whoosh. "Listen up. There's still the final duel. You still haven't given up." Xiaotan held his forehead and shook his head. At that moment, he only hoped that he could quickly end this side mission to prevent himself from suffering any indelible mental damage. The confidence in Banana's smile was unimaginable. "That's right. At the very end, let's use our handsomeness to determine the victor." He suddenly turned his head and pointed at Xiao Tan. "Student, as the referee, this match, you have to make a good decision." Do you still remember that I'm the referee?" Xiao Tan was taken aback. "Speaking of which, I didn't have the chance to make a decision previously. Are you ready?" Tseng Liangjun. Banana took half a step back and looked at Xiao Tan. Student, between me and Tseng Liangjun, who is more handsome? Please tell me with your conscience." Tseng Liangjun. Xiao Tan's answer came very quickly. "UF***ker." Banana jumped up from the ground. "What the F***ck?" he yelled as he charged at Xiao Tan. "Oh, what's going on? A battle?" This time, Xiao Tan was indeed caught off guard. He originally thought that this amusing script wouldn't trigger any battle, so he wasn't prepared. However, Banana grabbed Xiao Tan's collar and pressed him to the ground. Then he reached his other hand into his hair and began to sprinkle dandruff. "Feel the wrath of the haiku god. Snowy dance of the 9 heavens." Banana shouted the name of the move. At that moment, Xiao Tan was deeply shocked. Looking at the dandruff floating on his face, he was speechless. He didn't want to resist because he felt that it was too cruel to be serious with such an amusing person. Forget it." At that moment, Tseng Liangjun sighed. "Consider my loss." Banana heard this and immediately stopped what he was doing. "Really? Then I'm a romantic and handsome Shui Wei?" Yes. Tseng Liangjun said weakly. "Romantic Shui Wei. What? In the end, I won." Banana instantly put on a harmless expression and stopped his snowy dance of the 9 heavens. He took out something from his pocket and placed it in Xiao Tan's hand. "In any case, thank you, student." Before he finished, he pulled Tseng Liangjun away and waved to Xiao Tan from afar. "Bye-bye." Side quest completed. Special scenario extra reward. Banana Mulberry's Ma, Fei, Dalwin, Xiao Tan recovered. The two had already walked away, and the system audio stated that the thing that Banana stuffed into his hand before he left was the reward for this mission. Chapter 795. Night had already fallen. There was nothing special about the sun and the universe's night. Everything around him still maintained the usual comic comedy style. Even the moon in the sky wasn't that round. "Hey, I'm here." When he turned the corner, Wang Tanji heard a familiar voice calling his name. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a human cat figure under a street lamp diagonally across the intersection. Phew! Xiao Tan let out a long breath and looked around before walking over. When Xiao Tan approached, Feng Bujue said in a low voice, "You came on time." "Actually, I didn't deliberately calculate the time." Xiao Tan replied, "From 4 in the afternoon until 20 minutes ago, I completed 4 side missions one after another. After completing the 4th mission, I looked at the map and rushed over. The time was just right." "Ah, I roughly know that," Feng Bujue continued. "When you receive the side mission, it would also appear in my game menu. Then you should also know the degree of pain I'm feeling now." Xiao Tan said expressionlessly. "Haha, I'm not too sure about that," Feng Bujue said. "It's not easy to speculate based on the content of the mission itself. Then I'll explain it briefly." Xiao Tan continued. "First of all, the first side mission. I witnessed a duel between Banana Mulberry and Tsung Liangjun. Yes, I'm familiar with the two of them." Brother Ju nodded and said, "The strong and adorable and the arrogant and black-bellied. Although I don't like such ACG-heavy titles, I have to say that your positioning is very accurate." Xiao Tan replied with narrowed eyes. "Thank you," Brother Ju said with a smile. Xiao Tan licked his lips. 2 seconds later, he said, "Then, in the second side mission, I was brought to a strange meeting room by an uncle who claimed to be the manager of the product development department. I studied the stickers developed by their company with a bunch of weirdly dressed guys." "Is it a scam?" Feng Bujue continued. "It has nothing to do with me. After all, I'm not buying their products. I'm just giving them some suggestions as a random consumer." Xiao Tan replied, "It's just, I never expected that the stickers model, a very patriotic brat, would run in without permission. According to the manager, he seemed to be the son of Mr. Oishi, who was fired last month. A few minutes later, the conflict between them turned violent. The manager's leg and the brat's whip leg. Finally, he left with a cane. Haha, that is quite the effort." Feng Bujue laughed drily. "Then, I encountered the third side mission." Xiao Tan shrugged and continued, "This may be the most inexplicable mission I've encountered so far." "Yeah, I was just about to ask you," Feng Bujue said. "What is the plot of Through the Wrong Guidance? She can't reach the destination before midnight." Brother Ju was quite familiar with the plot of Niwa. Therefore, when he saw keywords such as banana, Xingliang, or sticker in the mission panel, he could immediately infer who Xiao Tan encountered. Only the third side quest that Xiao Tan triggered from the content of the quest, it was hard to tell which story in Niwa was related to. "I'm not too sure," Xiao Tan said. "The woman claimed to be a beautiful lady with a sweet and sour strawberry flavor from a famous university S1. She said that she was working part-time as a tutor at night, but she seemed to have no sense of direction. She said it felt like she had already found the client's address. But in fact, okay, you don't have to continue," Feng Bujue interrupted him. "This is a sad story." "Huh? What's wrong?" Xiao Tan replied. "I think the NPC I encountered in this mission is the least ridiculous one I've encountered so far. Other than her lack of sense of direction, she was basically a normal person. She saw that it was almost midnight, but she still hadn't found the client's home. So, she said that it was too late and she had to go back. Until she left my sight, she didn't do anything strange." He said thoughtfully, "Speaking of which, I feel a little guilty. I led her around in circles for a few hours, so she couldn't go to the client's home. That's considered disrupting her work, right?" "No, you've done a good deed," Feng Bujue said. "Not only did you keep her safe, but you also converted 2 people who were filled with distracting thoughts. You've done a great deed. Umitba." Xiao Tan didn't understand what Brother Ju was talking about, but he didn't think too much about it. He just thought that Brother Ju was joking, and he didn't get the joke. "Okay, then, the 4th side mission." After a few seconds, Wang Tanji continued. "You'll know if you look at the mission panel. It's a combat mission." "Yeah," Feng Bujue said. "You receive it at 12:20 after midnight, right? Survive a battle with a werewolf. That's right." Xiao Tan replied. When the mission notification sounded, a guy dressed like a high school student took the opportunity to transform in front of me. Brother Ju continued. "For the next hour, Did you run away from him? No. When he transformed, I was standing in a dead end. Xiao Tan replied. There was no way to escape, huh? Feng Bujue was stunned when he heard this, but in the next second, he seemed to understand something, and a smile appeared on his face. Oh, you met the werewolf, whose combat power was just about on par with an elementary school student, right? This kind of beep, pain setting, you remember it so well. Xiao Tan's answer proved that Brother Ju was right. What's wrong with that? I still remember that the werewolf's name was Fujita. Feng Bujue raised his eyebrows and replied, Okay. Xiao Tan spread out his hands. In short, I used the body of Sun Taro, a student from Animal Elementary School, to fight with the 2-meter-tall, ferocious-looking werewolf for more than 10 minutes, and then I won. After he lost, did he bury his face between his knees and sit on the ground in depression for an hour? Feng Bujue asked immediately. Yes. An hour later, the system notified me that the mission was completed. At this point, Xiao Tan summarized his nearly 10-hour journey in Japan and the world. So, I just happened to arrive at this moment. Feng Bujue nodded and thought for 2 seconds before saying, By the way, what kind of item is the doll you got from Banana Mulberry? Only one of these 4 side missions gave an item as a reward. It should be something good, right? Chapter 796. Xiao Tan did not waste time. He took out the doll and showed the item description to Brother Ju. Name, Banana Mulberry's Ma Fei doll. Item type, other, rarity, broken special effect. The wearer can use this special skill. Ninth Snow Dance. This skill is not affected by the upper limit of the skill bar. Prerequisite. Male, bound after pickup, can be taken out of the scenario. Yes, remark. The doll that Banana Sang treats as a good friend. Every time it is scolded by Tsung Liang Jun, Banana Sang will hug Ma Fei tightly to seek solace. It was a doll with a very strange appearance. Its body was like a starving teddy bear, and its overall color was between the color of flesh and pink. The most ridiculous thing was its face was not cute at all. It looked like a middle-aged uncle with simple facial lines and a gloomy face. Not bad, Feng Bujue commented after reading it. In other words, from now on, other than the 12 skill slots in your skill bar, you have an extra skill. Not bad? What? Xiao Tan tilted his head. Name, Snow Dance 9 Heavens. Special skill type, active effect. When the skill is activated when you rub your hair, dandruff will fall endlessly. Remark, the god of haiku passed down this unique skill to Matsuo Banana Sang. That's the effect. Xiao Tan read the skill description word by word and shrugged. It's really useless. It's as good as nothing. Actually, when Xiao Tan saw Banana Sang's Ma Fei doll, he was happy for a moment, but when he saw the skill description, his heart sank. Feng Bujue thought about it for a few seconds. I think, under certain circumstances, this can be useful, such as... Xiao Tan asked tentatively. Temporarily, I haven't thought of anything, Brother Ju replied. Sigh. Xiao Tan sighed. You don't need to console me. It's just a quest for nothing. After all, the quest is not that difficult. It's just a pain. I'm not comforting you. Feng Bujue continued. You'll understand in the future. He paused. Even if this is really useless, it won't affect you much. You have plenty of space in your backpack, so it's not a problem to bring more things with you. Well, that's true. Xiao Tan nodded. 4 rich players like Wang, Tanji, and Xiao Linggu. The inventory and storage slots were never a problem. When they felt the pinch, they could just buy it. Hey, Teacher Maotaro. I'm here. Just as the two were talking, a familiar, wretched voice came from a few meters away. The two of them looked in the direction of the voice and saw Xiongji dressed in white. He was dressed in a white shirt, white pants, and a white hat. He even held a cane in his hand, making him look like a magician. It's the middle of the night. Are you looking for trouble? That was the first thing Brother Ju said when he saw Xiongji. Huh? Xiongji replied in a pitiful tone. Didn't you say, change into something suitable for the operation and come over? How is this outfit suitable for the operation? Feng Bujue said. Are you afraid that people won't be able to find you in the dark? Sigh. Xiongji looked disappointed. But this is the outfit I made for strange burglar bears _I, he grumbled. And it's made with confidence, phew. Feng Bujua looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. He mumbled to himself, I've miscalculated. I should have told him to change into something low-profile, close-fitting, and convenient for the operation. At this point, it was unrealistic to ask Xiongji to go home and change into a new outfit. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, the best time to rob someone's house. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Fine, let's do it this way, Feng Bujua said as he took out a piece of paper from his pocket. Look carefully. This is the floor plan of Miao Mei's house. Next, I'll plan the operation. Where did you get this from? Xiaotan looked at the piece of paper and asked curiously. I drew it myself, of course, Feng Bujua replied. There's a pen and paper in my bag. I can make use of it. Xiaotan continued, No. I mean, how did you? I've been inside. Feng Bujua knew what Xiaotan meant, so he interrupted his question and gave the answer directly. What? Xiongji was shocked. You actually entered the home of Miao Mai-chan, who is like a holy domain to me. His eyes quickly turned from shock to admiration. Teacher, how did you do it? Speaking of which, this guy changed the way he addressed you. Xiaotan whispered in Brother Ju's ear. Feng Bujua ignored Xiaotan's comment and continued the topic. It's simple. First, I went to her house and pressed the doorbell. Then, her mother came out to answer the door. I lied to her and said, I accidentally lost the notes I took in math class. I want to borrow Miao Mei's notes to copy. Then she let me in. Because I was very polite and my request wasn't too much, Miao Mei didn't suspect anything. He paused for half a second before continuing. After that, I went to Miao-chan's room and pretended to copy her notes. After that, I ate the tea and snacks prepared by Miao-chan's mother. After that, I quickly surveyed the layout of her house in the name of going to the toilet. Finally, I thanked Miao-chan and left through the front door. Miao Mei's room. Xiongji hugged his face with his hands and looked very excited as he spun in circles. It seems he didn't hear anything after the word room. Xiaotan narrowed his eyes and said, It's okay, Feng Bujua said as he stepped forward and waved his paw. Slap. I'm sorry. I'm just a gentleman who's dancing in the palm of the god of lust. After his bare face was covered, Xiongji returned to his cowardly nature. He respectfully lowered his head and stood by the wall, apologizing in a way that made people scratch their heads. Okay, look at the map carefully. Feng Bujua pointed at the floor plan in his hand. This is the entrance. After entering, there's a very short corridor. The door on the right leads to the utility room, and if you go straight, you will reach the living room. The kitchen and the living room are connected, and the other side is the bathroom. He said while pointing. He spoke fast, but it was just enough for Zhang Ziyan to follow his train of thought. This is the staircase that leads to the second floor. There are 2 bedrooms on the second floor, as well as a bathroom and toilet, and then, at this point, Brother Ju paused and used his finger to point. This is our breakthrough. Chapter 797. What's here? Xiaotan looked at the big cross on the map that Brother Ju was pointing at. This is the end of the corridor on the second floor. There's a sliding window on the wall that can be pulled horizontally. Feng Bujua replied, Previously, I used the few minutes I had to go to the bathroom to set up a small mechanism on the window. You use cellophane tape? Xiaotan immediately responded. That's quite clever, Brother Ju said with a smile. I remember you used to do this when you were in the 2nd grade of primary school. Xiaotan said, That night, you snuck into the school and sawed off the desks and chairs of the boys in the next class. You remember that pretty well, Feng Bujua said. I almost forgot about it myself. I basically remember all the bad things you did in the past. Xiaotan said, showing a thoughtful look. I don't know why. Perhaps it is because you have a conscience that you have decided to shoulder my sin as well, Feng Bujua said with a smile. Actually, I think you definitely have a conscience. Xiaotan said, It's just that your view is a little different from normal people. Feng Bujua showed a meaningful smile. Maybe 2 seconds later, he brought the topic back to the business at hand. Well, since you already know my method, let's cut to the chase. I'll assign the tasks. Brother Ju looked at Xiongji. Xiongji, you're the heaviest here, and your clothes are conspicuous and inconvenient. So, when we build the human ladder, you have to be at the bottom. Huh? Xiongji was stunned for a second. What human ladder? It turned out that he still didn't understand the meaning of the transparent gloom mechanism, so he didn't know what those two were talking about. Of course, this was not entirely his fault. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji had many years of tacit understanding. Between them, there were many things that could be understood without being said. But with Xiongji's IQ and EQ, if you don't tell him everything, he won't understand. At the end of the corridor on the second floor, there is a window that seems to be closed, but it can actually be opened. Xiao Tan was the most patient. He immediately turned to Xiongji and explained, "Let's go in from there." Oh, Xiongji didn't seem to understand, so he responded. Feng Bujue continued, "Considering that Sun Turo's hands can't open the window, the person at the top of the ladder must be me." He raised his cat paw and waved it in front of the bear and falcon. "Plus, I'm light, and I'm not afraid of falling from a high place. It makes perfect sense for me to be at the top." Understood. Xiaoten naturally had no objection to this. "Air, Mr. Maotaro, then how do we get in?" Xiongji asked a very low-level question. "Is your big round head filled with sh*T?" Brother Ju's desire to mock was ignited again. "I'm already in the room. What do you think?" "Air." Xiongji thought for 2 seconds. "Can you throw a rope down from the second floor and pull us up?" Slap. This time, Brother Ju didn't slap Xiongji's bare face. Instead, he slapped his own face. "Be patient. There's still 12 chapters. After 12 chapters, I'll stab him to death." He muttered viciously in a voice that only he could hear. "Sigh." Xiao Tan patted Xiongji's shoulder and said earnestly, since Maotaro is already in the room, he could just go to the first floor and open the front door for us. "Ah, that's right." Xiongji clapped his hands. Okay, let's move." Feng Bujue took out 2 flashlights from his pocket and gave one each to Xiao Tan and Xiongji. "Put them away first. Turn them on when we're in the room. When you turn them on, don't forget to use your hands to block the front. Don't let the light shoot out." You don't need it?" Wang Tanji looked at Brother Ju suspiciously. "I'm a cat. Have you forgotten?" Feng Bujue replied. 5 minutes later, climbing over the wall of Miao Mei's house didn't take much time for the 3 burglars to do so. It was just a normal low wall. With Feng Bujue's cat-like skills, he could easily climb up the wall. As long as one of them managed to climb up, the other 2 would be much easier. The one who managed to climb up the wall would be able to pull his partner up. After climbing over the wall, the 3 of them quickly and quietly passed through a small backyard. In the wee hours of the morning, everything was quiet. Even the slightest movement would be much more obvious than during the day. Therefore, the 3 of them had to be extra careful. Otherwise, they would easily alert the cat. MM. Hey! When they reached the wall, Feng Bujue lowered his voice and made 6 hand signals to Xiao Tan and Xiongji to match the sound of his mumbling and groaning. Xiao Tan and Xiongji had the same reaction when they saw the hand gestures. They both stared at Brother Ju with their eyes wide open. Their expressions seemed to be asking, "What are you doing?" Sigh. Feng Bujue shook his head and simply said, "You here, crouch firmly. You, over there, get ready to run." As he spoke, he repeated the hand gestures. "Why don't you just say it?" Xiaotan whispered back. "Slap." Why did you hit me?" In the next second, Xiongji was inexplicably slapped. But when Feng Bujue hit him, his eyes were looking at Wang Tanji. "Hey, are you trying to intimidate me?" Xiaotan said. "It's all because of him. Stop talking nonsense and get moving." Feng Bujue grumbled angrily. The 2 of them couldn't argue with him. They looked at each other and moved separately. In the true sense, the 3-person human ladder was a technical job. It required cooperation. In theory, using this skill, even ordinary people could climb to a very high height. To give a more extreme example, Lataro, Amaru, and Wei, all from Ninja Lataro, the three of them, used this skill to climb extremely high cliffs. And now, Maotaro, Suntaro, and Xiongji, the three of them, only wanted to go to the second floor. If they used the three-person human ladder, it shouldn't be too difficult. If they weren't elementary school students, maybe two people could do it. We're ready. 2 minutes later, Xiao Tan was riding on Xiongji's shoulder and shouted softly to Brother Bujua, who was a few meters away. At this time, Xiongji straightened his back, bent his legs, and got into a horse stance. His palms were folded together, ready to be used as a stepping board for his companions. Xiao Tan's posture was not relaxed. In addition to using his waist and feet to stabilize his body, he also had to extend his wings forward to provide a stepping board for the second floor. Okay, I'm coming. Feng Bujue saw that his companions were ready, so he responded and took off. As the saying goes, the first drum builds up the spirit, the second will weaken, and the third will exhaust. This kind of movement had a certain degree of difficulty and required a combination of strength, endurance, and skill. The success rate on the first try was the highest. Feng Bujue naturally understood this point. Therefore, he went all out from the beginning and raised his concentration to the limit. In the blink of an eye, there were two sounds of puff puff. The sound of the meaty pads being stepped on was not loud. He saw a swift black shadow, as light as a cat, jumping up. It was not until he was in mid-air that Feng Bujue realized that his body was more useful than he had imagined. A cat was a cat. Although it had been anthropomorphized, many of its characteristics were still preserved. For example, during the day, when Feng Bujue saw a reflective glass bottle on the ground, he had an inexplicable desire to go over and play with it. Also, when he saw objects that moved back and forth at high speed, he had the urge to charge forward to stop them. The most ridiculous thing was when he passed by a fruit stall that day, he smelled the scent of oranges, and he could not help but run away. In short, Maotaro still retained many of the cat's characteristics. Other than the cuteness that made Brother Ju feel a little awkward, there were many useful skills. Night vision, climbing ability, balance, a soft body, and claws that could hurt people when necessary. These were all things that Brother Ju liked to see. Humph, so easy. Feng Bujue easily leaned on the windowsill. He felt that his body was not heavy at all, and he could support it with one arm. Soon he placed his other paw against the window and pulled it open. He flipped into the room and looked around. The darkness in the corridor on the second floor did not affect Feng Bujue at all. Not to mention, when he came here during the day, he had already memorized 90% of the terrain, distance, and other factors. At this moment, with his focused eyes, he could see everything in the room with the help of the moonlight shining in from outside. Puff, 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 puff. Feng Bujue took off his shoes because he was a humanoid character. He was wearing shoes, just like Xiongji in the previous case, and moved quickly in the room with his hands and feet. The paw under his feet stepped on the floor, and only a slight puff-puff sound was heard. It was almost silent. In less than a minute, Brother Ju felt his way down to the first floor and stood at the front door. When the door was unlocked, there would be a little bit of noise. Even if the noise was not loud, the sound of metal objects colliding should be very obvious in the dark. Therefore, Feng Bujue opened the door very slowly, trying to minimize the sound of the door being unlocked. It took him 1 minute to go downstairs, but it took him 2 minutes to open the door. 2 minutes later, the door opened. Outside the door, there were two figures who had been waiting for a long time. This time, Feng Bujue really did not say anything. It was fine if he said a few words outside the house, but the sound would spread out, but not inside the house. He winked and hummed a few times, signaling Xiao Tan and Xiongji to enter the house. When the three of them were standing in the house, Brother Ju used a very gentle and slow method to close the front door again. Chapter 798. Burglary was a very common crime. However, to be able to do it without leaving a trace while there were other people in the house, it was quite difficult. If Feng Bujue was the only one who could do this, the success rate would be very high. Even with Wang Tanji's help, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. But the problem was, the real protagonist of this burglary was not the two of them, but the thief bears underscore or Xiongji. Feng Bujue believed that this main plot event was a good opportunity for him. He hoped that with his help, Xiongji would be able to complete a relatively difficult and technically difficult crime and master a certain escape technique. That way, in the main plot, Xiongji's suicide rate would greatly decrease, and the difficulty of the whole scenario would decrease. Therefore, no matter how difficult it was, Brother Ju was willing to take this risk. After leading the two into the house, Feng Buju gestured and mumbled something under his breath. This time, Xiao Tan and Xiongji understood. Brother Ju wanted them to turn on the flashlights. The next second, they picked up the flashlights that Brother Ju had prepared beforehand. With one hand on the switch and the other covering the front of the flashlights, they turned them on. The switches of the two flashlights were silent. The circle of light that came out from the front was very small, and the light was not that bright. Obviously, when Feng Bujue made the purchase, other than the textbooks and stationery in the bag, Kat Saburo still had some pocket money in his pocket. Since the system had given him money, Feng Bujue naturally used it to its fullest potential. He had already considered the various situations that he would need to pay attention to. After the two turned on their flashlights and stabilized the circle of light, Feng Bujue gave them a look to signal for them to follow. But to their surprise, when they walked less than 2 meters down the corridor, they heard squeak, squeak. The floorboards under their feet made two sounds that were not too loud, but in this dark and quiet environment, it sounded particularly obvious. At this moment, all three of them stopped moving. Xiao Tan and Xiongji were shocked by the sound. They froze in place and didn't dare to move. Feng Bujue was also shocked and broke out in a cold sweat, but he didn't panic. From Brother Ju's point of view, this level of mistake was completely acceptable, even if he alerted Miao Mei or her parents. As long as he wasn't caught red-handed, he could stop the operation at any time. After holding his breath and listening attentively for nearly 2 minutes, Feng Bujue was basically certain that the person, Cat, upstairs did not respond to the sound just now. Thus, he slowly turned his head, crawled on the ground, and winked at his two companions. Xiaotan quickly understood Brother Ju's meaning. He held the flashlight in his mouth and crawled on the ground as well. As for Xiongji, although he didn't understand the instructions, when he saw Xiaotan crawling on the ground, he followed suit. He held the flashlight in his mouth and crawled on all fours. Then they lined up in a row and crawled all the way to the second floor. Feng Bujue, who was leading the way, sighed silently in his heart. Look on the bright side. At least I'm a cat. To teach a bear to steal. Xiao Tan, who was crawling in the middle, thought to himself, to go to this extent is quite hard. To be fair, Brother Ju had no choice but to go this far. The wooden floor of Miao Mei's house was old, and once it was pressured, it would easily creak and groan. Previously, when Feng Bujue was moving alone, this problem wasn't obvious. This was because his body was light, he had 4 fours on the ground, there was a cushion under his feet, and he moved quickly. However, after Xiongji and Xiaotan came in, the three of them walked together, and the sound was suppressed. Fortunately, this accident didn't have any consequences. 5 minutes later, the three of them finally reached the second floor. This was the first time that Wang Tanji felt that climbing stairs was such a tiring thing. With Brother Ju leading the way, every step that the three of them took had to be done in slow motion. They had to make sure that they did not make any noise. This might be relatively easy for cats, but it wasn't easy for falcons and bears. When they reached the corridor on the second floor, Feng Bujue turned around and gestured to the other two. He hummed a few times and asked them to rest for a while. When Xiao Tan and Xiongji saw this, they lay down on the ground. Of course, they knew that resting was one thing, but they couldn't take deep breaths. Anything that would make any obvious noise was not allowed, so they had to hold it in. After resting for another 3 minutes, Xiao Tan and Xiongji finally recovered. At this time, Feng Bujue raised his paw and gestured to them again, asking them to follow. After a while, the three of them arrived at the door of the bathroom. When there was no one in the bathroom, the door wouldn't be locked, and since it was the middle of the night, there was no one in the bathroom. Therefore, Feng Bujue directly opened the door with his paw. In the washroom outside the bathroom, there was a washing machine, and on top of it, there were some wash clothes that weren't too big. That's right, I'm talking about underwear. After the door was opened, the three burglars walked in. As the floor of the washroom was tiled, as long as they didn't stomp their feet, they wouldn't make much noise. So, after the three of them entered, they stood up one after another. Then, Feng Bujue turned around and looked at Xiongji. He mumbled a few times and raised his finger to point upwards. Actually, he didn't need to point, as Xiongji's attention had already been attracted. He used his flashlight to shine on the underwear on the hangers above and revealed a wretched smile. Burglars close, exit, retreat. The process of them leaving was slower than when they sneaked in, because Feng Bujue knew that most burglars who committed crimes would lose their focus after committing the crime. In the process of retreating from the crime scene, their attention would often be diverted to other things. For example, how should we distribute the spoils? Will my companions betray me? How can I betray my companions? Where should I go after I take this money? Or who? And other thoughts might appear in their minds. Therefore, Brother Ju purposely slowed down the pace of their retreat. When they landed, they were more careful than when they entered. They returned to the front door after 10 minutes. As long as they could open the door before them, the burglary could be considered success. With Feng Bujue's guidance, Xiongji wasn't caught red-handed, and he didn't leave behind any evidence. This provided a good opportunity for him to escape punishment. Next, Brother Ju needed to follow Xiongji home and brainwash him through the night. He already had several plans in his mind to correct Xiongji's self-exposing behavior. After that night, the rest of the main plot would not be a problem anymore. However, just as they were one step away from success, an inconceivable accident happened. Creak! The front door opened, and three figures rushed out. But, clang, 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 three heavy machines were turned on, and three beams of light with a radius of 1 meter shot out. The night was torn apart by this sound and light. Ah, what is that? Xiaotan was blinded by the sudden glare. He mumbled instinctively, "A searchlight?" After his eyes got used to the light, he looked forward and saw, other than the giant searchlight, there was a sea of red, blue, and white lights flashing on the street. Based on visual observation, there should be more than 10 police cars parked there. Please note, when Xiongji is arrested under the identity of Bears_I, the main plot will fail. The moment the police showed up, this announcement also appeared in the two players' ears. Is this AF*King joke? Feng Bujue looked at the situation before him. Can't they tell us something like this before we make our move? This is not good. Brother Ju, Xiaotan looked around. We seem to have been surrounded. Before he could finish, Officer Inyanosuk's voice came through the loudspeaker. Bears_I, we are the police. You and your accomplice have been surrounded by us. Give up on pointless resistance. Raise your hands and walk out. Return to the house. Once the officer finished, Feng Bujue said those two words. His tone sounded more like an order than a suggestion, but Xiaotan and Xiongji did not mind the context of that statement. They only knew, at a time like this, it was better to follow Brother Ju's orders. Bang! 2 seconds later, the three of them retreated into the house and closed the door. It's over, it's over. Xiongji hugged his head with both hands, sweating profusely. He ran back and forth anxiously. This is bad. I don't know if I'll be sent to a circus or something. It's good that you'll be sent there. Feng Bujue seemed very relaxed. With your appearance, you can start performing right away. They don't even need to prepare your costume. Teacher Mao Taro. Xiongji grabbed Brother Ju's shoulders excitedly. How can you still joke with me so calmly? As he said this, he let go of Brother Ju and took 2 steps back. I can't be arrested. He picked up the white hat on his head, revealing the underwear stuffed inside. It wasn't easy for me to get these precious treasures. If I lose them again, I'll definitely die because I can't take the mental blow. If you die, then die. Feng Bujue ignored Xiongji's perverted remarks. He still said in a calm tone, I can turn your death into a legend. Let's put it this way. Underwear, socks. The strange thief bears _I, who is everything that perverted gentlemen dream of. His last words before he died made countless perverts rush to Rice City. As he was talking nonsense, he squatted down and put on his shoes again. He had tied the shoelaces of the two shoes together and hung them around his neck. My treasure? If you want it, go get it. I put everything there. What do you think of such a last word? This trick of yours. Before Xiongji could answer, Xiaotan complained first. I can't help but think of the legend of banana. Teacher, you can't do this. On the other side, Xiongji replied in a panic. Hurry up and think of a way. I'm thinking about it. As Feng Bujue spoke, he had already walked to the kitchen and pulled out a kitchen knife from the knife rack next to the chopping board. Brother Ju. Xiaotan didn't care about changing the way he addressed Feng Bujue in front of Xiongji. He said directly, You're not going to take a kitchen knife out and fight with them, are you? The police have guns. Teacher. Xiongji didn't have any reaction to the address, Brother Ju. He just maintained a state of panic and reminded him, Even if they don't have guns, I can't go out and have a direct confrontation with them. Feng Bujue responded expressionlessly and walked back from the kitchen. After all, Maotaro, he used the third person here to refer to the character I am playing, is just a primary school student. Even if I have a knife and have far more ruthlessness and combat experience than people my age. Combat experience aside, your viciousness is definitely better than anyone of your age and race. Xiaotan chimed in at the right moment. You flatter me. Feng Bujue admitted calmly and continued, but it's obviously very difficult for me to deal with adults, especially trained police officers. Even if it's a one-on-one fight, I don't have the confidence to win. Then you have a knife, too. Xiaotan was slightly startled, and his expression changed. You can't be thinking of... He quickly glanced at Xiongji. What are you thinking? Feng Bujue shrugged. Although that is indeed one of the plans, it's not to the point where we have to kill him. Xiongji didn't understand what they were talking about. So he asked with confusion, What? Kill who? Nothing. Feng Bujue quickly changed the topic to prevent the man from catching on. Actually, the reason I took the cleaver is very obvious. He raised the cleaver to point at the stairs. There are 3 hostages on the 2nd floor. Oh, no cat hostages. He smiled. They in this room will be our bargaining chip to deal with the police. From the time they closed the door to the end of the conversation, it took less than 2 minutes. The NPCs in Japan generally spoke fast. Brother Ju's narration and Xiaotan's sarcasm were also quite fast. Just as Feng Bujue said the word bargaining chip, another voice came from outside the house. Strange robber bears _I, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro. Give up resisting. This voice was familiar to the 3 robbers in the house. Tumei's voice. It's Tumei-chan. Xiongji's eyes widened and he said in a panic, She's also outside, and she already recognized teacher and Sun Taro Sr. That's expected. Feng Bujue's tone showed that he had expected this situation. The moment the searchlights came on, I knew we've been tricked by Tumei. As he said that, he walked slowly to the 2nd floor. I know, you're probably thinking, you can use the cat hostages to confront us. At this time, Tumei added, Stop dreaming. Miao Mei and her family have already left that house. As soon as she said that, Feng Bujue's footsteps suddenly froze. What? The next second, he rushed out and went straight to Miao Mei's room on the 2nd floor. He didn't rush to kick the door open because he wasn't confident that he could do so. Instead, he tried to turn the doorknob, but the door was unlocked. Feng Bujue pushed the door open and saw an empty bed. TSK. I've been tricked, he said unhappily. Outside the room, Tumei was still talking through the loudspeaker. Mao Taro, we've been monitoring your every move. She paused for a moment and said in a proud tone, You pretended to lose your class notes and used the excuse of investigating Miao Mei's house. After that, the police sent people in and quietly moved her family. Hey, Brother Jew! Xiaodan quickly caught up with Brother Jew and appeared at the door of the room. Ah, I heard everything. Feng Bujue gave a long sigh, and then a smile appeared on his face. Ah, interesting. Seeing Feng Bujue's reaction, Wang Tanji suddenly had an ominous premonition. He knew Brother Ju very well, so he knew that when Feng Bujue had such an expression and commented that someone or something was interesting, it was usually when he was forced into a desperate situation. Brother Ju wouldn't have minded if he was simply suppressed in terms of physical strength. But being schemed against in terms of intelligence was something he absolutely could not accept. At a time like this, most people would have already broken down. The operation was at the last step, and the dawn of victory was right in front of them. However, the situation was reversed in an instant, and they were forced into a desperate situation. The frustration, fear, and uncertainty brought by such a situation were indescribable. If it were someone else, even if they didn't break down, they would be at a loss and panic, and it would be difficult to turn the situation around. However, Feng Bujue was different. The more he encountered this kind of hopeless situation, the faster his mind worked. It was as if there was a region in his brain that he didn't normally use, but at certain moments it would be activated, allowing him to enter a special state of mind. If a name had to be given, the state of madness should be a more suitable name. Come out and surrender. Mao Taro, Sun Taro, and the monster thief bears _I? Bunny May was still pressuring them. You don't have any hostages, and this house has been surrounded. It's impossible for you to fight back or escape. She paused for 2 seconds. As for fighting back, I advise you to think about it carefully. Her tone suddenly turned cold. Compared to death, wouldn't it be better to be sent to the clinic? Clang. The next second, the glass window on the second floor was smashed open. A figure appeared in front of the window. But Chapter 799. The people outside, listen up. Feng Bujue used his meaty voice to shout that was as loud as a loudspeaker. Do not act rashly. Otherwise, I'll kill him. As he said this, he pulled another figure to his side and pressed the kitchen knife against the latter's neck. It was none other than Xiongji. What's going on now? Inyanosuk frowned as he looked at the window on the second floor with a pair of binoculars. I don't know. Tumei looked up with her sharp eyes and said, but I'm guessing this might be Mao Taro's trick. She guessed right. This was Feng Bujue's trick. But even if they knew it was a trick, the police couldn't act rashly. Hey, you guys in front of the door, if you dare to take another step forward, I'll chop off this stinky bear's head. Brother Ju put on a ferocious look and continued his performance. You're threatening us with the life of your partner? Tumei put the loudspeaker in front of her mouth again and shouted at Brother Ju, do you think this will work? Who told you he's my partner? Feng Bujue asked with a grin. As soon as he said this, Tumei and Inyanosuk's expressions changed. He was just tricked by me to come here, Brother Ju said as he took off the eye mask on Xiongji's face. When he met up with Brother Ju, he was wearing a white-eye mask that looked like a Zorro mask, so his real identity hadn't been exposed yet. Xiongji Kuan. Seeing this, Tumei sneered, Humph. I knew it. I already guessed it. The identity of the strange bandit bears _I is you. Xiongji Kuan. Xiongji had been standing beside Brother Ju in a panic since the beginning and hadn't said a word. When he heard Tumei's words, his face turned pale and he was speechless. Ha ha. It was Feng Bujue who guffawed after hearing that. And who told you that? He is the bandit bears _I? What? These three similar sentences came from Tumei, Inyanosuk, and Wang Tanji respectively. Even Xiao Tan was shocked by what he said. That was enough to prove that Brother Ju's words were beyond anyone's imagination. You guys are really naive. Feng Bujue laughed. Are the three cat-eye sisters cats? Is Etsun Ryoma a horse? Is Brother Snow Rabbit a rabbit? His fallacious reasoning began again. Who said that bears _I's true form must be a bear? It's here. Xiao Tan, who was standing behind Brother Ju in the corridor, leaned back and complained with a serious face. This kind of verbal attack is obviously nonsense, but it's impossible to refute in a short period of time. Verbal attack. Logic rape. Don't talk nonsense. A few seconds later, Tu Mei, who was on the street, reacted and shouted into the loudspeaker. If he's not the strange bandit Bears_I, then why is he wearing the same costume as Bears_I in the cartoon Detective Tadpole Man? Because, Feng Bujue replied loudly, he's a stupid beep. At that moment, the world was quiet. After a full 20 seconds, Inyanosuk pointed up and looked at Brother Jew. So, the strange bandit Bears_I is you. Maotaro. Hey. Xiao Tan, who was standing not far behind Brother Jew and Xiongji, was shocked. He was convinced just like that. Ha! Feng Bujue was proud. That's right. I'm a strange bandit Bears_I. I like underwear the most. Ha ha. As he spoke, he pulled out a pair of underwear from Xiongji's pocket and put it on his cat's head. Okay, I was wrong about you. At that moment, Wang Tanji looked at Brother Jew in a different way. Feng Bujue's back suddenly became taller in his eyes. In order to complete the task of the 33 chapters, you're willing to go to such lengths. These lines and actions can no longer be described with the word fight. For the protagonist to do what you did, it's really worthy of respect, admiration, amazement, and admiration. The male protagonist of the novel was not just a vehicle for the readers to fantasize about. Their task should not be to rob, kill, amass wealth, take revenge on the rich and powerful, and pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Moreover, there was no need for them to give all these actions some flimsy and self-deceiving reasons, so that they could be carried out smoothly and without reproach. Greed was greed, ruthlessness was ruthlessness, lust was lust, and despicable was despicable. There was no need to hide, there was no need to flatter, there was no need to call a deer a horse, and there was no need for the author to clean up the ground. Just do what you want, write a chapter, and let people judge whether it's right or wrong. In the end, in everyone's heart, there would be a unique image of the protagonist. The man who carried the whole story, firmly took on the core of the narrative, and was remembered by people, was worthy of the title protagonist. Ha! On the other side, Feng Bujue did not have time to respond to Xiao Tan's ridicule. He nonchalantly put the underwear on his head and shouted out the window, Xiongji is just a pawn that I lured here. You can say that he's an accomplice, but, in my opinion, he's just a gentleman who was played by the underwear. Is this the verbal escapade, impromptu lie? Xiao Tan heard this and said, can others really understand such a specious explanation? At the same time, under the instruction of Brother Jew, Xiongji shouted out the window, help! Don't do anything stupid. Inyanosuk panicked. Let's talk nicely, don't kill the hostages. Humph! Are you scared now? Feng Bujue replied arrogantly, cut the crap, give me a helicopter with a full tank of fuel, the kind with a pilot. It must be here in 30 minutes. He paused and waved the knife in his hand, or, from the 31st minute onwards, I'll kill a hostage every 3 minutes. Oh no, Xiongji. Hey, you only have one Xiongji, Xiao Tan said. Even if you count me, it's only 2, right? You can kill them all in less than 35 minutes, right? I'm too familiar with this phrase, so I just said it. Feng Bujue turned around and said softly, how many hostage-taking activities have you done? Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes and replied, don't worry about the details. Feng Bujue lowered his voice and said to Xiao Tan and Xiongji, don't worry, I won't kill anyone. This will be over soon. Teacher. Xiongji was sweating profusely. We're counting on you. You have to do your best. While they were talking, Inyanosuk and Miao Mei were also discussing something on the street. Soon, Inyanosuk shouted back, listen, Maotaro, this street is not wide enough to park a helicopter, and there's no helipad nearby. Can we change to another mode of transportation? Then what do you have? Feng Bujue asked. Police car. Inyanosuk replied. Okay, then get a police car and a driver ready. We'll leave from the main entrance in 5 minutes, Feng Bujue said. Okay, Inyanosuk said. After the two finished talking, Brother Jew turned around and said to his two companions, "Okay, it's done." "What did you do?" Xiao Tan's mouth twitched. "Do you know how bad the agreement you just made with them was?" "Of course I know," Feng Bujue replied with a smile. "I did it on purpose." 5 minutes later, Mao Taro, Sun Taro, and Xiongji got into a police car with a driver. After they got into the car, they found that the back seat door could not be opened. It was surrounded by bulletproof glass and could not be broken with a kitchen knife. After the three of them sat down, the driver in the driver's seat silently drove the car all the way to the police station. Main mission progress changed. Xiongji's number of arrests is limited to 10. Current number of arrests, 3. Xiongji's hatred towards you plus 33%. Chapter 800. 3 days later, at the school. After a series of system announcements, it was time for the transfer. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji, who were sitting in the police car a second ago, appeared in the classroom of Year 4 Class 1 of Animal Elementary School. "Huh, so you have this trick up your sleeve." After sitting down, Xiao Tan was stunned for 2 seconds before he smiled at Feng Bujue. That's right. Feng Bujue knew that Xiao Tan had understood his strategy, so he replied directly. "The point is, we can't let Xiongji be arrested as the strange bandit bears _I." He spread his hands, letting him be arrested as himself. Even though it will cause the main event to fail, it's better than failing the scenario. Wang Tanji nodded. "So, you took on the title of bears _I in front of the NPCs and led us into a trap. That way, the incident will be over, and we will be safe." "Yes, but..." Feng Bujue changed the topic. "This way of completing the mission is actually quite bad. I just barely changed the situation from a scenario failure to a mission failure. In essence, what I did earlier was similar to surrendering in place of Xiongji." Then, you were judged as AFKing again?" Xiao Tan asked. "Not really," Brother Zhu replied. "Compared to the previous peeping incident, my action this time was quite technical. Plus, the main event itself has failed. Under these circumstances, the system will not judge me as AFKing. But, in terms of Xiongji's hatred points, I was punished to a certain extent." "I increased it quite a bit this time as well, 7%, Xiao Tan replied. "Including the previous additions and subtractions, is now 9%. "Oh," Feng Bujue said calmly. "Compared to my 41%, that is still quite optimistic." "What? How much did you say?" Xiao Tan widened his eyes and asked with an incredulous expression. "Don't be nervous," Brother Zhu said. "It's not even 50% yet." As the person involved, he was very calm. "I was already mentally prepared for this," he explained leisurely. "After being arrested, Xiongji will definitely lose the underwear that he stole. Part of the strong resentment will undoubtedly be transferred to me. Actually, I've always been very concerned about this." Xiao Tan continued. "What will happen when this number is high? It's hard to say." Feng Bujue's eyes turned strange. He glanced at Xiongji and Tu Mei, who were chatting on the other side of the classroom, and he said darkly, "I have a feeling this script, no, this universe, there is something wrong with it. The IQ and EQ of these NPCs do not seem to be as low as they appear to be. Take Xiongji as an example. Some of his actions and even his personality are contradictory." "Yes, I wanted to say that as well," Wang Tanji added. "The case that I disrupted earlier, if you think about it, it was very strange. Xiongji had the guts and courage to chop off Aiko the penguin's head." "I think," Feng Bujue said thoughtfully, "when Xiongji's resentment toward one of us reaches a certain level, these suspicious points will gradually show themselves. Meow, screams, screams, meow, meow, screams. Incident, crime, Xiongji Cohen's crime. When the meow entered his ears and interrupted his thoughts, these were the two sentences that flashed in Feng Bujue's mind." Brother Zhu groaned lazily. He looked at Xiao Tan and said, "As usual, let's go and take a look." "Okay." Xiao Tan shrugged and stood up with Brother Zhu. In the next few hours, Tu Mei Chan's inference and Xiong Ji-Kuan's self-exposure were still ongoing. The incidents happened one after another, and most of them were similar to the crime previews of Strange Bandit Bears _I. However, these incidents didn't take long to solve. For example, lost the front end of the flute, secretly taking photos of the skirt, stealing sports shorts, teacher's triangle missing, and so on. All of them were completed or active crimes. In a battle of wits with the famous detective Tu Mei Chan, Feng and Wang didn't have the absolute upper hand. Xiong Ji's self-exposure attribute was there, and the difficulty of the incident had changed from successfully disrupting before being taken to the police car to successfully disrupting before being exposed to obvious criminal evidence. It was inevitable that there would be some situations that were impossible to guard against. Even though the two players were working very hard, Xiong Ji's number of arrests still inevitably increased. Of course, in comparison, there were more cases of successfully getting off the hook. Just like this, unknowingly, Xiong Ji's number of arrests had accumulated to 9. Xiong Ji's resentment toward Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji had also reached 95% and 72% respectively. The next day, first class in the morning. After Brother Ju and Xiao Tan completed another round of disruption, they arrived at the next scenario. At this time, their mental and physical strength had already reached a very poor state. Phew! This scenario. How much gaming time has been spent on us already? Xiao Tan asked. I feel like it's been almost 72 hours already, right? Shorter than you think, Feng Bujue replied. Only 56 hours. This is also a long scenario. Suddenly, I feel like the blade duel at Chonglin is as relaxing as a holiday, Xiao Tan added. Yes, the fact that our stamina points won't recover as we move between scenarios is indeed a problem, Feng Bujue said. Furthermore, the main plot of this scenario requires us to maintain our concentration at a certain level, so the mental burden is not small. Even though he said that, there was no sign of tiredness or impatience on his face. Looks like the biggest difficulty in the later stage of this scenario is endurance. He even chuckled for some reason. Initially, the two of us thought that Xiong Ji's limit of 10 apprehensions, including 10 apprehensions, was enough, but in the blink of an eye, there is only one chance left. This kind of situation where one is almost exhausted, one's nerves are tensed, and there's no room for failure, that is quite exciting. What are you talking about? Xiao Tin was really tired. When a human brain was tired or numb, it was easy for them to ramble, and it was normal for them to swear. If Xiong Ji is arrested 2 more times, all our previous efforts will be wasted. What is so exciting about this kind of huge pressure? When you were on the operating table, weren't you under this kind of pressure every second? Feng Bujue asked. Air. Xiao Tan was really stumped by the question, but when he recovered, he said, Hey, the timing is different, okay? The duration of this scenario is already 5 times longer than a large surgery, okay? You can think of it as a high-intensity concentration training, Feng Bujue said in a relaxed tone. Furthermore, there is a break in this scenario, right? He titled his head. Ignoring the situation at the beginning of the scenario, after the difficulty of the main plot increases, after each transition, we will have a few minutes to catch our breath, right? Before he could finish his words, he heard, Everyone, please pay attention. Mr. Panda's voice came from a podium. In 2 seconds, the whole class's attention was drawn to her. Xiao Tan sighed and mumbled softly, Here we go again. What will it be this time? Has the teacher's underwear been stolen? He turned to glance at Xiong Ji. Let me confirm it first. Okay, he didn't wear it directly outside his clothes or on his head. The reason why he complained was because Xiong Ji had really done it before. Students, today we have 2 special guests coming to our class. Mr. Panda continued. They will spend the day with you. 2. Xiao Tan's first reaction was, Don't tell me it's Banana Mulberry and Sung Liangjun. They are. Mr. Panda raised her hand to point at the door. She was about to say the names of the 2 when a figure flashed in from outside the door. He used a very feminine voice to cut in. Oh, class, how are you? Chapter 801. The man who jumped into the classroom looked to be in his 20s or 30s. He had strange short hair with a bun on top of his head. He wore a blue long-sleeved sportswear, and his entire body exuded a strange aura. Not long after he entered the stage, another man who looked younger than him also entered the stage. The second person had rather refreshing brown short hair and wore a red sleeveless sportswear. Overall, he looked like a relatively normal person. Side mission has been triggered. The two people walked into the classroom one after the other, and the system's voice sounded. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji opened the mission panel and saw the instruction. Chase the prince and the girl out of school before the end of the morning class. Prince and the girl? Xiao Tan muttered after looking at the mission. Their full names are Prince Xingde and Little Sister Xiaoye. Feng Bujue saw the doubt on his face and explained. Brother Zhu knew the two. Even without the mission prompt, he knew the names of the two characters and other related settings. Huh? Xiao Tan was stunned. After all, he wasn't very familiar with Japanese literature. He only knew that another famous historical figure, whether they are famous or not, and what their image in history is actually not important. Feng Bujue continued. Don't forget, this is the Japanese literature universe. No matter how high the character's prototype is in the world of this funny comic, they will become funny. Xiao Tan muttered, and the figures of Banana Mulberry and Tseng Liangjun flashed through his mind. Yaho! At this moment, the person in the blue sportswear spoke again. Hello everyone, I am Prince Xingde. Today is school experience day. Because it was set by the imperial court, I couldn't refuse, so I brought the girl here to play with everyone. Oh no, to experience school life, it was obviously a rule that you added on a whim yesterday. The next second, the person in the red sportswear exposed the prince's nonsense. As you can see, this is what happened. Teacher Panda stood on the podium and continued. She's from the imperial court after all, so it's not easy to reject her. Students, please bear with her for a while. What's the matter with the imperial court? Xiao Tan muttered. Isn't the background and political system of this world a bit messy? It's fine as long as you know it's messy. Feng Bujue said. Look at the crown prince's style, which is a combination of ancient and modern Chinese and Western styles. What's there to be confused about? Then, a few seconds later, Mr. Panda looked at Prince and the girl and said, Please sit in the two empty seats at the back. Okay. Crown Prince replied to his teacher with his catchphrase and walked down with happy steps. The girl shook her head helplessly and followed with a sigh. Okay. After they sat down, Mr. Panda said, Students, please turn to page 22 of the textbook. We talked about it last time. The teacher began the lesson as usual. For the top students, the following content was clearly heard by them. For the bottom students, they could only hear the buzzing sound. Hey, student, what's your name? Feng Bujue was still thinking about how to complete the mission when Crown Prince took the initiative to talk to him. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or the system's arrangement. Crown Prince and the girl's seats were on the right side of Feng Bujue and Xiongji respectively. Mao Taro Furong. Feng Bujue turned his head and looked at Crown Prince. Oh, it's Furong Cohen? Crown Prince smiled honestly. Hello, how old are you this year? It's none of your business, uncle. Feng Bujue replied with a very bad attitude. Uncle. Crown Prince's face twitched, and he lowered his head while trembling. His face fell into a haze, and he muttered, Kids nowadays are getting less and less cute. Also, uncle. Feng Bujue's ridicule had just begun. What's that strange smell on your body? You actually asked such a question in front of me. Crown Prince was shocked. What strange smell? It's your nose that has a problem. You don't want to admit it. Feng Bujue replied coldly, then turned his head and looked at the girl behind him. Hey, big brother over there, this uncle has a strange smell on his body, right? Of course, it always has. The girl held her chin with one hand and calmly replied, Maybe it's because he's not wearing underwear. I see. Hearing that, Feng Bujue used his acting skills and conjured an extremely condescending and disdainful gaze as he turned to the Crown Prince. Ha ha! Crown Prince covered his face with both hands, shocked and annoyed. This This kid, what's with that look? Damn it. Crown Prince, I told you to get rid of that habit long ago. Now, even I'm embarrassing myself with you. The girl, who had betrayed her teammate, added insult to Crown Prince's back. Shut up. Girl, you're a bastard. Crown Prince replied unhappily. You clearly know that I hold the don't wear underwear if it's not necessary principle. It's because I know that I told you to change. That strange principle. The girl narrowed her eyes and continued. That, before they could finish their words, the panda teacher had already turned around and said to them, Crown Prince, although strictly speaking, you're not here to attend class, can you please not disturb the other students listening? You're speaking too loudly, and the content is terrible. You're blaming me? Crown Prince replied, feeling wronged. Big idiot. The girl, timely, stabbed him in the back again. The first class passed by quickly. As the bell rang, Crown Prince and Crown Prince, who had relaxed for a while, immediately tensed up again. About 10 times, the girl replied in a low voice, Also, do you want a rice ball or not? When he asked this question, he had already opened the cloth bag and opened the lid of the lunchbox. Yes. As the Crown Prince spoke, he grabbed a rice ball and took a bite. But after chewing a few times, he showed a disappointed expression. What's going on? There's no seasoning in this rice ball. Can't you just die, Crown Prince? The girl calmly replied. If you want seasoning. Fong Bujue continued. This will do. When he said this, he used his cat claw to pick his nose, and then he casually stuck something he picked out onto the rice ball in Crown Prince's hand. Crown Prince's face was filled with horror. This little devil. More or less, there is a saltiness to it, and it makes the texture more mysterious and layered. Fong Bujue said nonchalantly. In terms of color, it is quite eye-catching as well. Damn it! In the next second, Crown Prince seemed to have reached the end of his patience. He threw away the rice ball, shouted loudly, and rushed towards Brother Jew. Chapter 802. Don't be impulsive. Prince. The girl clamped down on Prince's shoulders from behind. He's just a primary school kid. This kind of kid, Prince said stubbornly. Let me kill him while he's still in primary school. This line sounds familiar, Fong Bujue said with a smile. I've heard it at least 10 times. Of course, he meant that he had heard it at least 10 times in real life. Prince was clamped down by the girl and couldn't move an inch, but he still waved his hands at Brother Jew without giving up. How did such an uncute kid live to this age? I've heard this line at least 100 times. Fong Bujue said calmly. I'm going to kill you. Prince continued to clamor. This line? Countless times. Brother Jew rubbed his chin and said, If I could get $1 every time someone said this to me, I would be a millionaire now. 3 minutes later, Prince knelt down again. I can't. I have no energy left. You're a little weak. Fong Bujue looked at him condescendingly. Xiaoya didn't look tired at all. She didn't seem to be out of breath. I guess it's because I'm hungry. TSK, how dare you stop me as my companion? Prince turned around and stared at the girl. I can't eat school lunch. No matter how I think about it, it's all your fault. So it's all my fault. The girl immediately complained. If that's the case, Prince's face suddenly became gloomy. There's no other way. I'm going to frame you with a groundless crime and sentence you to life imprisonment. It seems like he suddenly realized his identity as the Prince Regent. The girl looked a little flustered. I know. I'll punish him with the crime of giving someone else's dog a random name, Prince said after thinking for a few seconds. Speaking of which, when I went to the Sway Kingdom, I did give the crown prince a name like Love Poo 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 Ball, the girl replied. Fong Bujue looked at the duo who were like a pair of teasing partners, a special relationship that existed in the wonderful story of the world's teasing life. In this universe, forming a teasing pair was a life event more important than marriage, and thought to himself, this is harder than I thought. Prince has been abused by his sister too much. If I want to deal a serious blow to his spirit and force him to leave, I seem to have to do something more ruthless. The second class, art class, I feel like it will be very interesting. Because it was an art class, Prince's interest returned, and his mood became better. Teacher. As soon as class started, Fong Bujue raised his hand and complained. Prince didn't bring paints and brushes. Before he could finish his words, the entire class turned to look at him. It's this brat again. Prince, who was at a loss, glared at his brother Bujue angrily. I can't help it. The art teacher showed an impatient look. Prince, you can borrow from the other students. Okay, Prince replied awkwardly. But Prince was sitting against the wall. In front of him was an empty seat. On his right was the wall, and on his left was Fong Bujue. Sister, did you bring any? Prince turned around and asked the girl. At this time, the girl just happened to take some paints and brushes from Xiongji. I didn't bring any, but Xiongji Kun, who is sitting next to me, lent me some. Sister, Prince's expression changed slightly, and he wanted to say something. But the girl interrupted him and said, I don't even have enough for myself. You should borrow from someone else, Prince. What? Prince's expression became serious, and he said sternly, as a black warrior of the Ink Squad, is this really okay? I don't remember joining that strange group. The girl said coldly, the Red Warrior has high hopes for you. The Crown Prince was still talking nonsense with a deadpan expression. Who is the Red Warrior? The girl asked in surprise. The Red Warrior is a fish that can swim thousands of miles in a day, even in ink. Prince quickly replied, even if you talk nonsense, I don't have any extra painting tools to lend you. The girl was too lazy to complain. Thus, Prince's gaze helplessly shifted to Fong Bujue. Hee. Brother Ju met Crown Prince's gaze with a wicked gaze. Not lending it to you. This bastard. Prince jumped up from his seat. I won't let you get away with this. The girl once again clamped down on him. Hey, the teacher is still in the classroom. Don't stop me. Prince leaned forward. I'm going to use my ultimate skill, Flying Regent Poseidon Attack, to end him. Oh, sounds like a good skill. Fong Bujue said. If possible, I really want to see it with my own eyes. Do you really think so? Prince was delighted. I'm just kidding. Fong Bujue's tone suddenly became cold. Just from the name of the skill, I know it's bad. How dare you? Prince was going crazy. I'm going to squeeze your blood out to make ink. Fong Bujue shrugged and replied, it's paint. The third class, Music is my strong suit. Prince came to the music classroom and immediately picked up a guitar. I feel like there's no point in humiliating this guy. He's definitely a natural idiot. Fong Bujue looked at him from afar and muttered in a low voice. Was my strategy wrong from the beginning? La la la, the girl and the fishbone are a pair of good friends. Prince held his guitar and started singing. The inside of the pillow is full of fishbones, Ha! His lyrics were silly and cute, and his guitar did not produce a normal melody. In short, he just pretended as if nothing had happened and continued to complain. Hey, uncle. Brother Ju pondered for a moment and walked over. I think you should stop now. It's you again. Prince lowered his head and looked at his brother Ju. What do you want this time? Nothing. Fong Bujue continued. I just want to ask you a question. A kid is still a kid. Prince smiled proudly. Say it. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me as a lord. No, as a regent. That's right. Uncle, you came to the elementary school on a whim to organize an experience day or something. You seem to have a lot of free time. At this moment, Fong Bujue used the ultimate skill that was ridiculed as a forbidden skill. If this skill did not work, he would have to give up. Don't you have anything else to do? Like, see your girlfriend? Chapter 803. Side quest completed. Special scenario reward. 200 skill points. Fong Bujue's ultimate skill successfully shattered Prince Shengda's mental defense. The prince lost his mobility due to the trauma and was taken away from the school by the girl. Looking back, the difficulty of this side quest was average. It was definitely not harder than murder without a body. Therefore, the reward for this side quest was average as well. 1 week later, on the path near Miao Mei's home, after the announcement that the quest had been completed, the change of location followed. Brother Ju and Xiao Tan appeared at the location indicated by the system. We're here again. Wang Tanji immediately said, the last time we came here was around midnight, but I've been walking around this area for a long time now. Feng Bujue answered casually. Brother Ju. Xiao Tan was suddenly reminded of something. He turned to Brother Ju and asked, previously, after we completed the side quest, we didn't change locations immediately. Why do we change locations this time? I have no idea either. Feng Bujue said, perhaps it has something to do with the progression of the scenario. His expression turned serious. Including this chapter, there are only 7 chapters left to reach the goal of 33 chapters. With the plot's tension, it should be nearing the end already. I see. Xiaotan nodded. Just as they were talking, 2 human figures slowly walked over from the T-junction in front of them. Brother Ju and Xiaotan looked at them. They were Tu Mei and Miao Mei, who were carrying backpacks. There haven't been any cases recently, Tu Mei said as she walked. By the way, Miao Mei-chan, aren't there any dismembered bodies hanging from the trees in your yard? About 100 would be fine. Miao Mei glanced at Tu Mei out of the corner of her eyes. Even if you're looking forward to the hellish cases that happen at my house, there's nothing I can do about it. Their dialogue was still as Japanese as ever. They talked about strange things in a straightforward manner. Good morning, you two. A few seconds later, another figure appeared. It was Xiong Jijuan, who was wearing a set of see-through women's pajamas. He greeted the 2 girls as if nothing had happened and said, today's weather is really good. Did you guys hear that there's going to be another transfer in our class today? Before he could finish his sentence, Tu Mei's sharp gaze locked onto him again. That gave me a fright. Bunny Mei-chan's gaze has become sharp. Xiong Ji stopped in his tracks in shock. This could it be? Once again, he uttered the line that sounded like an explanation. It can't be wrong. This kind of gaze means that Bunny Mei-chan's inspiration is coming, and her mental power is focused on the case. Due to this characteristic, Bunny Mei-chan was given the nickname of Scared Out of My Skin. He paused. But where exactly is this case? Why do I feel like every time he introduces Tu Mei's nickname, the content is different? Xiao Tan, who was watching from the side, narrowed his eyes. This is similar to Tu Mei has a different character on the chest of each of her clothes. Feng Bujue continued. Either it's a deliberate plot point, or the author of Japanese harmony always forgets what he drew last time. While the two were discussing, Tu Mei had already taken out her phone. Obviously, she wanted to call the police. Why? This is not right. Xiong Ji-kun said in a panic. Are you going to call the police to arrest me again? Where did you steal it from this time? You pervert. You perverted bear. When Bunny Mei asked him the question, she didn't stop dialing. This is his own. Before Xiong Ji-kun could answer, Feng Bujue-kun had already walked forward to interrupt their conversation. Yes, I have seen Xiong Ji-kun where once. Wang Tanji-kun also walked forward and agreed without changing his expression. At this point in the script, Xiao Tan-kun's moral integrity had already crumbled to the ground. He had already gotten used to the fact that Xiong Ji-kun was lying. Is that so? Tu Mei-kun said. I thought it was already ridiculous to wear a bra during the last outing. I didn't expect a pervert like you to have so many tricks up your sleeves. Yeah, this guy has a lot of weird clothes at home, Feng Bujue said. Yes. Didn't he wear the same outfit as Bears_I from Detective Tadpole? Xiao Tan added. Are you 2 perverts trying to protect Xiong Ji-kun? Tu Mei continued. Ever since the strange thief Bears_I mission, Xiao Tan and his brother Ju have been accused of being underwear thieves. Tu Mei often called them that, so Xiao Tan was used to it. In addition, speaking of that incident, there was something that Xiao Tan couldn't understand. After the mission, there was one thing that puzzled him, and that was this universe's handling of such cases was ridiculously lax. Xiao Tan had found a chance to ask Xiong Ji how long they would be sentenced for an incident like the one they had committed last time. In the end, Xiong Ji told him that the burglary and confrontation with the police would only be locked up for 3 days. For a crime like Xiong Ji's usual crimes, he would be released after 1 day. That was in the future. If this was real life, they would have to spend at least 5 years picking up soap in prison. How is that possible? Facing Tumei's question, Fong Bujue replied shamelessly, "What good is there for us to protect him?" Tumei thought about it for a few seconds before putting her phone away. Never mind. She shrugged. If it really belongs to Xiongji, then it's not really an incident. Just as she said that, suddenly, successfully disrupted the investigation of Mr. Panda's Pajamas incident. Bonus skill points for special scenario. 50. Xiongji's hatred toward you increased by 5%. Please note, Xiongji's hatred toward player Fong Bujue has reached 100%. Hidden quest has been triggered. Main quest has been changed. A series of unfamiliar system announcements rang in the ears of the two players. They quickly opened the game menu to take a look. Xiongji's number of arrests has been limited to 10 times, including the 10th. This rule had changed, and it became, before the scenario ends, try to hide your identity as a player. What? At that moment, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan said the same thing in their hearts, but their emotions were slightly different. When he saw this strange and unprecedented mission, Xiao Tan was surprised and confused. And Fong Bujue, when he saw the mission description, he realized something. He felt shock, fear, and anxiety. Chapter 804. Please note that the Hirata and Hirata's world in this volume refer to the characters and chapters of gag manga Nikwa. It has nothing to do with the story of Hirata Shuichi in the previous volume. Before the two titled kings could recover from their shock, the change of scenery had arrived. And this time, it was similar to the opening cinematic. They suddenly lost control of their bodies and entered a first-person perspective. Soon, a gray sky appeared in front of their eyes. Then, the camera panned down. A three-dimensional street scene appeared in the screen. On a place that looked like a rooftop, a left hand, or more accurately, a human's left hand, picked up a comic book. 1 second later, a right hand flipped the book open. At that moment, the camera traveled into a two-dimensional world. The style of this world was simple and crude. It looked like the world of a gag manga. Ours, tomorrow's. As the scene changed, a piece of music played in the player's ears. Light in front of you, eyes in the depths of your heart. The song continued to play, and the camera kept moving and changing under the vast sky. Door of Dreams. This CG scene moved from a four-eyed guy in green clothes sitting in a shop eating ramen to the gloomy baseball players on the TV screen of the ramen shop, and then to the four-eyed guy, and then to a female streamer, and then to the four-eyed guy, and then to the four-eyed guy, and then to the four-eyed guy, and then to a female streamer, and then to the four-eyed guy. This cycle continued, switching back and forth between the ramen-eating guy and many seemingly unrelated characters. Light must the power of tears, the power of the heart, must the end of freedom. Yes, fixed. The oil stains on your hands. Gag manga Nikwa. The song was not that good. Be it the lyrics, melody, or arrangement, they all gave off a serious vibe, but it made the audience feel emotional. By the time the song was over, the messy and incomprehensible scenes were also over. The next second, Fong Bujue and Wang Tanji regained control of their bodies. Their surroundings had become a vast expanse of grassland. The terrain here was slightly inclined, and the grass was green. The sky looked a little gloomy, and the gentle breeze made the two of them feel a little chilly. It's about time for me to lay my cards on the table. Suddenly, a slightly hoarse and lazy male voice sounded. Did you hear that? Fong Bujue looked at Xiao Tan. Xiao Tan replied. I heard it very clearly. The reason why the two of them said this was because the voice they heard at that moment was abnormal. These words were not received through their ears, but directly appeared in their minds. It was just like the system voice. My name is Hirata Hino. I'm a little different. I've sensed it. I realize that I'm actually a character in a comic. Oh, is it Hirata-kun? The look in Fong Bujue's eyes changed slightly. Many clues were strung together in his mind, and the tiredness accumulated in his mind was swept away at this moment. Now everything makes sense. I think I've read this story before. Wang Tanji's eyes lit up, and he whispered to Brother Ju. It's called Hirata's World, right? I think it's a Chinese dub version. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Before Xiao Tan finished, several strange noises came from not far away. At the same time, from the corner of his eyes, he saw several black shadows descending from the sky. The black shadows landed on the grass several meters away from him and his brother Ju. That's not what I expected. Feng Bujue turned around to look at the things that landed on the grass, and he said with a chilling smile, "Hey, brother Ju, what's going on?" 2 seconds later, Xiaotan also saw the real faces of the black shadows. His terror points shot up instantly. He suddenly realized that some parts of this so-called funny comic world were even scarier than a real horror movie. Initially, I was filled with curiosity about this world. Based on my understanding of comics, I came up with some scenarios that might happen. And everything happened one by one. When Hirata spoke, Feng Bujue's eyes wandered over the pile of bloody bodies on the ground. I wanted a nemesis, and here he is. Listening to his words, Feng Bujue's eyes stopped on a dead body that was wearing white underwear. The body was slightly rotund. He wore a pair of blue shoulder pads, white underpants, white knee-length socks, green sneakers, and a pair of white wrist guards. He was wearing underwear on his head, and he had a pair of monster ears. He had a cute hairstyle that looked like a ball of fur on his head. He's obviously a loathsome guy, yet he claims to be my rival in love. Although I don't know his name, he said the name of my lover. Xiao Yi, Japanese pronunciation, Yo-chan. Brother Ju's eyes moved again to another dead body. The appearance of this corpse was simple to describe. It was a tall, thin, middle-aged man wearing blue swimming trunks with a buzz cut. Xiaoya was an uncle who chewed on something weird. Instead of calling him Xiaoya, it would be more accurate to call him Uncle Yi. Just as I was thinking about whether or not I should just give Xiao Yi to that piece of trash, Brother Nemesis mentioned that I was a striker. Thus I thought, did I have a master or something? When he heard this, Xiao Tan could not help but look down to the ground. The body that he was looking at, in terms of body, was no longer human. It felt like this was a humanoid creature that the author wanted to draw, but messed up. The creature's head was a rough oval with eyebrows, eyes, nose, and mouth covering the entire face. Its body was thinner than its head, like a long strip. Its torso had a dozen intersecting abdominal muscles that looked like fish bones. Its limbs were short, and its arms were thicker and longer than its legs. Then, a disgusting-looking master appeared and said that I was the successor of the... There was no other way. I could only try to use a killing move. In the end, I clapped my hands and released the master's twin brother. I see it. Feng Bujue looked at the body that was lying next to his master. It looked exactly like his master. After defeating the nemesis, the masters mentioned a setting that seemed to be the main storyline: defeat the Demon King. If the master's appearance was he wanted to draw a human but didn't do it well, then the Demon King style could be described as he gave up on treatment. He had a face that was similar to Xiao Ye's. Even though he was only wearing his underwear, at least he looked normal. It was just that his torso was like layers of rice cakes stacked on top of each other, and there were 2 rows of thin and long soft hair floating on both sides of his torso. From afar, he looked like a centipede with a human head and long legs. However, not long after the Demon King appeared, he died from his old illness, coughing, This is indeed Hirata's world. After hearing so much from the voice, Xiao Tan could basically remember the plot of the anime. But how come I remember that only the nemesis and the Demon King died? The other 3 characters should still be alive. When Xiao Yi and the 2 masters tossed me into the sky and cheered, "Long live the Demon King," I realized, at that moment, Hirata Hino's tone changed. It became low and sinister. I am a character from a parody comic. From the beginning of the story, I am a joke. A laughable nemesis, a laughable lover, a laughable master, and a laughable Demon King. A laughable, short life, I have no ties that I can't let go of, no unforgettable love, no legacy of kindness, and no hot-blooded battles. What I have is the ability to comment on everything that appears before my eyes. I can't move people, and people don't care about my feelings. I'm unwilling to accept this kind of life, but I can't escape this cycle. Every time someone flips through a comic, opens a web page, opens a file, or plays a video, I have to repeat this endless nightmare. I've had enough. So, I killed them. I want you to understand that I am not a whining slave for you to pass the time. The last sentence changed from a system voice to a conversational one. Before the voice finished, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji turned to the source of the voice. However, they saw that a figure had appeared on the lawn behind them at some point in time. It was a man wearing a light green long-sleeve sweater and a pair of gray pants. He had medium-length hair. He looked very normal and ordinary, just like his name, Hirata Hino. If this was some kind of hot-blooded comic, a character like him would only be a minor character. But here, in Hirata's world, he was the main character. What do you mean by for us to pass the time? Feng Bujue smiled and looked at Hirata calmly. How come? I don't understand what you're saying. There's no point in denying it. Hirata's tone turned harsh. Guyin Mao Taro, Jin Izumi-san Taro. His eyes scanned Brother Ju and Xiao Tan's faces. Those aren't your real names, right? He raised his head and grinned wickedly. I know you're players. Chapter 805. Players. Feng Bujue repeated the question with a smile. What players? We don't play online games. Hearing Brother Ju's reply, Xiao Tan could not help but glance at him from the corner of his eyes. He thought to himself, Brother Ju is indeed something else. To be able to tell an NPC who might not belong to this online game world that he does not play online games without batting an eyelid in a world that is connected to an online game. When he was thinking about something, he did not pay much attention to the punctuation. From a certain perspective, this should be the legendary triple edition of lying through your teeth, right? You know very well what I'm talking about. Hirata glared at Brother Ju and said, Do you think denying it is going to change anything? Humph. Feng Bujue replied with a smile. And assuming, and please note that this is just an assumption, assuming that we are the so-called players that you mentioned, what do you plan to do? In less than a second, Hirata replied coldly, Consciousness attack. Once that was said, Wang Tanji's expression changed immediately. Feng Bujue reacted quickly. He immediately took half a step forward to stand in front of Xiao Tan and said, I'm sorry, but I just started Primary 4, so I don't understand the word attack. Is that so? Hirata scoffed. But it looks like your friend understood it. Tis, Feng Bujue grumbled with annoyance. This guy is quite good at reading people's body language. At the same time, Xiao Tan said with regret, Oh no, I forgot that I'm a primary school student, and I've dragged Brother Ju down with me again. 2 seconds later, Feng Bujue replied to Hirata with a normal expression. Oh, is that so? Perhaps it's because he's quite good at English. As he spoke, he turned back to look at Xiao Tan. Hayataro, what is the meaning of that word? Consciousness, Xiao Tan replied succinctly. Feng Bujue chuckled. He looked at Hirata and said, So, you're planning to use some kind of mental attack on us? Yes, Hirata replied. Can I ask, why is that? Feng Bujue asked. Just because we're the so-called players. He was under a lot of pressure, but his tone and demeanor were as relaxed as ever. When he said the word player, he did not forget to raise his claws and make a quotation mark gesture. Is that not a good enough reason? Hirata countered. Do we still need to explain the hatred that we have for you? Why don't you explain yourself? Feng Bujue was trying to prolong the conversation to gather more information. Put yourself in my shoes, Mautaro, or rather. I don't know your real name, Mr. Player. Hirata said, If one day you realize that you are just a character created by someone else, how would you feel? He paused before continuing. When you realize your background, appearance, personality, experience, and so on are all made up by someone else, Your every word and action is just another person's fantasy drawn by someone else with a pen or a keyboard. And the joy, anger, sadness, and joy that you have experienced, the feelings that you think are real, are all created by someone else. Phew. At this point, Hirata let out a long sigh. When that happens, what will you be left with? From your head to your toes, from your mind to your body, is there anything that truly belongs to you? He shook his head and smiled bitterly. I can tell you this. When you've figured everything out, the only thing left in your heart will be an endless, unfilled hole and sadness. Only hatred will be able to fill your heart. Ha ha. When Feng Bujua heard this, he suddenly started to laugh maniacally. His laughter was so wicked and maniacal. To be honest, when he typed that sentence, I had no idea what he was going to do next. I thought you were going to say something. Brother Ju laughed for a while before he shrugged. Don't you think the sentence that you just said is a paradox? What did you say? Hirata asked in a low voice with confusion on his face. Let me put it this way, Feng Bujua said slowly. Assuming it is as you said that your way of thinking and your words and actions are all premeditated by someone else, then at this moment the doubts, thoughts, resentment, and hatred that you have toward your own existence are undeniably premeditated by the person who created you. In other words, you're not questioning, you're not thinking, and you don't have any dissatisfaction or hatred. These are all things that a certain author has bestowed upon you with a pen or a keyboard. Your rather repressed emotions and actions are essentially no different from complaining. At most, they're different in terms of purpose. Some actions are meant to make people think, and some actions are meant to make people laugh. But at the end of the day, these are not your own purposes. Based on what you said, you have never had a purpose. This is because everything about you, from your mental state to your physical state, was instilled by someone else. When Hirata heard this, he started to waver. On the other hand, Feng Bujue continued his narration. We can make another hypothesis. For example, when the creator focuses his attention elsewhere, you will become an individual who can think independently and possess self-awareness. In that case, you will have to admit that part of your existence does belong to you. Perhaps your fate is influenced by a creature from a higher dimension, but you are not completely helpless. Your relationship is similar to the relationship between the creator and the mortals in a religion. You can complain that life has treated you like a bitch, but you cannot say that you have lived your whole life like an actor. No, that's not right. Hirata's eyes were filled with uncertainty, and he mumbled a denial. However, he did not go any further to refute Feng Bujue's theory. At the same time, Xiao Tan sidled up to his brother Ju and whispered, Even though I have no idea what you're talking about, it sounds very impressive. To be honest, I've thought about what he said a long time ago. Feng Bujue also turned his head to whisper to Xiao Tan, I've stopped thinking about it a long time ago. So, you've been thinking about it. Xiao Tan said. Wait a minute, before that, would a normal person have thought about that kind of question? While they were talking, Hirata, who was not far away, hugged his head with both hands and screamed loudly before kneeling on the ground. In the blink of an eye, his silhouette started to fade. The colors were disappearing from his body at a speed visible to the naked eye. It looked like he was being smeared away by the correction fluid. Calm down, Hirata-kun. At that moment, another voice suddenly spoke up. Do not fall into the other party's trap of logic. Once that was said, Hirata shuddered, and the fading stopped. The next second, the two kings turned to look in the direction of the voice. When they saw the appearance of the person who spoke, both of them were shocked. Aiko the penguin. Feng Bujua looked at the newcomer and said with a frown, You're not dead. Aiko the penguin's face was dark. Of course I'm not dead. As he spoke, he slowly walked over. Do you think Xiongji can kill me? Oh, Brother Bujua seemed to understand something immediately. He raised his brows and said, No wonder. Beside him, Xiao Tan's mind was also moving. He said softly, So that's how it is. I knew it. Xiongji would not commit a murder like that. My death is nothing more than an illusion. Aiko the penguin walked to stand before them and said, The purpose of creating this illusion is to test the time period that you two have been controlling these two bodies. Looks like you've already come to a conclusion. Feng Bujue's expression was cold, and his tone was hostile. Even though I can't say it's 100% accurate, but perhaps it was because of their race, Aiko the penguin rarely smiled. Even though he was speaking with a smug tone, his face was expressionless. I'm 80 to 90% accurate. Chapter 806. After the incident with the bandit bears Feng Bujue continued. That basically confirmed it, right? Very sharp, Mr. Player who is controlling Mao Taro, Aiko the penguin said. In terms of reasoning speed, he appears to be even faster than me. Hey, what's going on? Xiao Tan was having trouble keeping up with her train of thought, so he quickly interrupted to ask. Yes, what is going on? Feng Bujue put his hands in his pockets and looked at Aiko the penguin. Please explain it to me, Aiko the penguin. I would also like to hear the details. Humph, what reason do I have to tell you all this? Aiko the penguin asked. Why not? Feng Bujue pointed at Hirata. As long as Hirata-kun is here, everything is under your control, isn't it? He opened his arms and tilted his head to the side. If you don't share this meticulous plan of yours with us, wouldn't that be like casting pearls before swine? Aiko the penguin was silent for a few seconds. He did not immediately respond to Brother Ju's request. Instead, he walked to Hirata's side and asked, Are you okay, Hirata-kun? I am fine. Hirata's breathing had just calmed down. Don't worry. As he spoke, he sat up. The color of his body gradually returned to its original appearance. Seeing this, Aiko the penguin sighed in relief. Then he turned around to look at the two players. Okay, I don't mind telling you. At that moment, another voice came from behind Brother Ju and Xiao Tan. Let's start from the day they were transferred to our class. Is that necessary? Xiao Tan turned around and complained. Every time they appear from behind us. Feng Bujue did not need to turn around and know that the person who appeared this time was Tu Mei. As expected, you were involved as well. Feng Bujue mumbled. Of course, Tu Mei walked over and said coldly, Aiko the penguin was in the dark, and I was in the light. Detective, you live up to your reputation. Feng Bujue said, It must be hard for you to deal with Xiongji's cases all the time. It's fine, Tu Mei replied. After all, I like reporting things to the police. Then I'd like to ask you something. Feng Bujue glanced at Tu Mei and then looked at Aiko the penguin. Was it Tu Mei-chan or Aiko the penguin who saw through us and came up with this test plan? It's hard to say who saw through you first. Aiko the penguin replied. When Tu Mei-chan came to find me to discuss this problem, we all sensed that something was wrong with you. As for the plan, it was something we discussed and came up with together, Tu Mei replied. Understood. Feng Bujue nodded. Please continue. He extended his hand and made a please gesture, indicating for them to continue. Then I'll start from the beginning. Several seconds later, Aiko the penguin exchanged a look with Tu Mei and Hirata before he said, On the day you transferred to our school, Xiongji committed the crime, as usual. Even though from our perspective, it was nothing out of the ordinary, but his gaze swept across Brother Ju and Xiao Tan's faces. Objectively speaking, a crime is a crime. As new transfer students, your reaction to the incident of Xiongji's arrest was a bit too calm. You saw your classmate being taken away by the police for his perverted actions, but you didn't even ask anyone about it. That doesn't make sense, does it? Aiko the penguin paused for half a second before continuing. Of course, I also considered that, since you confidently claimed that you were famous detectives when you introduced yourselves, then there is a possibility that you were already used to committing crimes, which is why you acted so nonchalantly. At the time, that was what I thought as well. Tu Mei added, So, we didn't take any further action. However, about an hour later, you reacted very differently from before. Aiko the penguin continued. It was as if the two of you suddenly snapped out of it and started to ask about the case. This kind of sudden change in behavior undoubtedly made me feel a bit strange. Listening to Aiko the penguin's description, Wang Tanji couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. He thought to himself, This is a comic world. There's so many weird characters doing weird things. Even you guys have been doing the same thing. But why are you acting more serious and smart than I am? Then it was the next day. At this time, Tume took over from Aiko the penguin and said, "The two of you appeared near Xiong Mei's house again, or rather, the scene of Xiong Ji's peeping incident." She looked at Xiao Tan. "It's not strange for the two of you to appear near the crime scene. After all, our town is not big, and our classmates' houses are all in this area. I happened to pass by and heard the scream, so I rushed over." She then looked at Brother Ju. "But you suddenly attacked Xiong Ji and stopped him from confessing. This is too strange. In other words, our attitude toward the two of you changed from confusion to suspicion because of that scene," Aiko the penguin said. Hearing this, even though Feng Bujue did not show it on the surface, he admitted internally, "Indeed, it was my mistake, because it was a normal difficulty scenario, and it was a universe that I was familiar with. No, it was a universe that I thought I was familiar with, so I did not think twice before doing certain things. I did not think that all the crazy cases that happened before my eyes were done by Xiongji. I have never thought that." Tu Mei continued her description. "But with Xiongji present, he is more suspicious than anyone else. That is an undeniable fact." She crossed her arms before her chest and continued. "The two of you have known Xiongji for less than 2 days, and the morning before yesterday, he only met you once before he was taken away by the police. To say that there is some kind of friendship between the two of you is obviously not realistic." Her eyes fell on Brother Ju's face again. "But you, Maotaro, you seem to know him very well. When he was about to expose his crime, you used a very simple and violent method to stop him and voluntarily took the blame for Xiongji's crime." The penguin assistant added, "If we still don't have the idea of investigating in the face of such a situation, then we can't be called famous detectives." "That's right," Tumei said. "Therefore, later that day, I went to find Aiko the penguin to discuss the two of you. Therefore, the next day, the investigation of the two of you began," Aiko the penguin said. "Huh, that harassment letter." Feng Bujue raised his eyes to look at Aiko the penguin. "You wrote it, right?" "Yes," Aiko the penguin admitted. "I even purposely imitated Xiongji's tone and handwriting." He shook his head. "But from the actual situation, it does not seem to be necessary. Because Xiongji has done so many perverted things that even he cannot remember them all. So, it is very easy to frame him." Tumei added, "After helping him so many times, you should have noticed this by now, right?" "Beep. So that's how it is." Xiao Tan gasped. No wonder this guy would act like he had no idea what was going on every time he encountered an incident, and not long after, he would calmly expose himself. "I thought this guy was just using that kind of behavior to create trouble." This does have something to do with his character setting as well. At that moment, Hirata-kun, who had been silent for a while, spoke again. "In our world, most of the characters, or rather, creatures have characters that are similar to Xiongji's character. For example, Matsuo Basa, Prince Shungda, Werewolf Fujita, Naoshi and his son, the manager of the product development department and his subordinates, and so on. They are the main creators of trouble. This group of people, some are Chinibu, some are cute, some are pretentious, and some are truly idiotic." His description coincided with Feng Bujue's understanding of this universe. "These people will not consider the things that I told you earlier." At this point, his expression changed slightly. "But there's a group of people like me, Tumei and Aiko the penguin. Other than playing along with those people, we will have other ideas." Chapter 807. To put it simply, Aiko the penguin continued. "The highly intelligent creatures in our universe have the ability to detect creatures from a higher dimension." Tumei added, "And Hirata-kun is the first person to do that. Going from 1 to 2 is easy, but going from 0 to 1 is as hard as climbing the heavens." Aiko the penguin continued. "All of us are grateful to Hirata-kun. It was him who helped us understand." He looked at Brother Ju and Xiao Tan. that there is still the existence of you in our world. Is that so? Feng Bujue answered. But why would you refer to us as players? When he asked that question, Wang Tanji realized something. That's right. Even if they know they're characters from comic, why would they refer to us as players? Based on normal logic, shouldn't they refer to us as readers or viewers? If they refer to us as players, then it means because Shuichi answered Feng Bujue's question. Other than the higher dimension, we have discovered a parallel dimension that is similar to ours. It was a connected game called Thriller Paradise that sent you here, right? Aiko the penguin added. There is no need to look so surprised. Naturally, that was directed at Xiaotan. Before you, we have run into other players, and there is more than one group. Hearing that, the last doubt in Brother Ju's heart was answered, and his expression relaxed. Compared to you, those people's actions were rather rash, but it was not that hard to get information from them. Aiko the penguin continued. The difficult part was, due to the difference in dimension, we needed to use a long time to identify you. Other than that, Tumei added, even if we locked onto the target, we could not be 100% sure that the target was a creature from a higher dimension. This is because there are many people like Xiongji in our world, people with low IQ and EQ. When they do something out of the ordinary, it is hard to tell whether they're being controlled or they're just fooling around. Brother Ju, at that moment, Xiaotan lowered his voice to whisper to Feng Bujue, something is not right. It looks like we cannot hide this any longer. Why are you panicking? Feng Bujue also lowered his voice and replied in a voice that only Xiaotan could hear. Has the system notified you that you have failed the main mission? Not yet. Xiaotan. Then that's it. Brother Ju replied calmly. Don't worry. Let's wait for them to finish. After the two whispered to each other, Feng Bujue raised his voice again and asked, So, where were we? He asked hypocritically and took the opportunity to bring the topic back. Oh, right. That stalker letter was your first test, right? How'd it go? It was very successful. Tumei replied. According to my observation, he looked at Brother Ju, are a very smart and eloquent person, and you have a considerable understanding of our world. If there is an obvious weakness, it would be, you think too highly of yourself, or even narcissism. Holy sh**t. The famous detectives are so good. Their observation and analysis are so accurate. As Xiaotan listened, he complained in his heart, I'm a doctor, but I suddenly feel like my IQ is not enough to deal with you guys. I think that to deal with people like you, it is indeed quite difficult to play a direct game. Tumei continued, but retreating in order to advance should work wonders. Aiko the penguin continued. Therefore, regarding the outcome of the stalker letter incident, Tumei hesitated a little and chose to compromise. I understand. It seems that you're not just a simple peeping Tom and violent man. The famous detective Mao Taro from Beast Elementary School really lives up to his reputation. At this moment, Tumei's response clearly flashed in Feng Bujue's mind. He had to admit that retreating in order to advance was indeed the best way to deal with Brother Ju. Tumei's compromise made Brother Ju ignore many of the strange details, so I gave up on calling the police. Tumei continued, I wanted to see your reaction. She paused and looked at Brother Ju, but your personality has changed significantly. Oh, Feng Bujue asked, what do you mean? Mr. Player, Tumei's eyes changed slightly. Mount Taro, who is no longer under your control, speaks and speaks very differently from you. She pointed at Xiaotan. This is not obvious with Sun Taro. She then pointed at Brother Ju. But you are a very unique person, Mr. Player. If the main attributes of a character in a gag comic are categorized into playing dumb and roasting, you don't belong to either of them. Hirata added, when you defended Xiongji, you used the perspective of a higher dimensional creature to substitute for the virtual character. Then, you used the logic and way of speaking in our world that you speculated to solve the problem before you. Even though on the surface, there doesn't seem to be any flaws. Aiko the penguin added, but there's still a sense of unnaturalness. Tumei said, if you want to pinpoint where the problem lies, I'm afraid your mind will inadvertently switch between playing dumb and roasting. The three of them chimed in and answered Brother Ju's question with great chemistry. So that's how it is. Feng Bujue was still as calm as ever. On the basis of the success of the first test, you planned the death of the penguin helper, right? That's right. Aiko the penguin replied. After the first test, we gathered all the information we gathered and discussed it. We established a certain degree of friendship with the real Mao Taro and Sun Taro, and we deepened our understanding. Then, we came up with a hypothesis. Tu Mei continued. When Xiongji did something that could lead to arrest and was about to walk in the trap, you obviously, the you here refers to the players, would appear. Aiko the penguin continued. To test this hypothesis, Tu Mei, Yui Chi, and I used some props that we borrowed from the drama club to put on a show in front of you. To think I've been feeling guilty for so long. Xiao Tan heard that and grumbled gloomily. So, that monkey is involved as well? Wait a minute. Suddenly, Feng Buju interrupted the man's narration. This show, didn't you discuss it with Xiongji beforehand? Chapter 808. There's no need for that, Aiko the penguin replied. Tu Mei added coldly. How many times do I have to tell you before you understand that Xiongji-kun is a completely different character from us? He doesn't have the ability to see through dimensions, nor does he have our intelligence. In fact, he doesn't even follow common logic and common sense. He's just a psychopath who was programmed to commit crimes, plead guilty, and get arrested. That's right. Aiko, the penguin, continued. We just lured him into the alley and used a fake corpse and blood prop to scare him away. Then I shouted. He looked at Xiao Tan. In this case, your performance surprised me. I thought you were just another guy's follower, but I didn't expect your reasoning to be so good, and about 70% of it is consistent with the truth. Xiao Tan was not happy at all when he heard the compliment. He was afraid that he would say the wrong thing, so he didn't respond. He also tried to keep the expression on his face unchanged, but he thought to himself, the kind of reasoning that I made to help Xiongji get off the hook is actually consistent with the actual situation. After creating the illusion that Aiko the penguin was dead, we observed you for 3 days. A few seconds later, Tu Mei continued. In these 3 days, Xiongji was quite well-behaved and didn't commit any crimes. Mao Taro and Sun Taro didn't show any abnormalities. So, we carried out another crucial test. You made the dead Aiko, the penguin, appear in front of Mao Taro and Sun Taro. Before Tu Mei could reveal the answer, Feng Buju interrupted. Is that right? Oomph. Tu Mei snorted, confirming Brother Ju's reasoning. Anyway, after that, the fact that you are higher dimensional controllers was basically verified. Then, we didn't make any moves for the time being. Aiko the penguin continued. According to Tu Mei Chan's retreat, in order to advance strategy, we tolerated your behavior and observed your patterns of action to deduce your purpose and identity. Brother Ju at that time, Xiao Tan thought of something and called out to Feng Bujue. Ah, I know. Before Xiao Tan spoke, Feng Buju knew what he was going to say, so he replied directly, the real purpose of the system to suddenly assign us a side mission is to disrupt the investigation of these NPCs. It changed the time period when we controlled Mao Taro and Sun Taro, so that we could obtain more information. Xiao Tan continued. Unfortunately, at that time, we didn't even have a concept of what was going on. Feng Bujue replied in a low voice. If we had any inkling, we could have carried out many counter-tests during the trip. Sigh. Only now do we remember this. Xiao Tan sighed. The two of us seemed to be giving advice after the fact. He was right. There is no point in discussing this now. Then, we're almost at the main point, Aiko the penguin said, which is the strange thief bears _I incident. That incident was indeed done by Xiongji himself. Bunny Beauty said, the crime notice card was written by him, and bears _I's identity is clear as day. When you're talking to Xiongji in the school toilet, I was hiding in the innermost cubicle of the toilet, standing on top of the toilet lid. Aiko the penguin said, I heard everything you said. After school, Aiko the penguin came to find me, and we quickly came up with a plan. Tumei said, "For this plan, we invited Hirata-kun to help us." That I guessed. Phone Bujue said, "With two primary school students like you, it's impossible for you to mobilize so many police officers and arrange such a big scene just to catch a few thieves who stole underwear. To a certain extent, I can interfere with the thought process of those minor characters," Hirata explained. "And Inyanosuke is just a minor character." That night, 1 second later, Tumei continued, "The way you reacted when you were surrounded allowed us to confirm that you are definitely not readers, spectators, or transmigrators. The two of you have a clear but illogical goal: to stop Seonji-kun from being arrested at all costs. When there was nothing you could do, you would lighten his punishment. This characteristic matches perfectly with the players that we know," Aiko the penguin said. "Combined with your intermittent control over Maotaro and Sun Taro, we get it now. Your mission is to keep appearing in the scenario where Seonji is about to be arrested and stop him from being arrested," Tumei continued. "So, the investigation on you two has come to an end." When Hirata said that, he slowly walked toward the two players. In the days after that, Tumei continued to act like she knew nothing. She played her role in the normal way and circled around Seonji to deal with you. Of course, since we decided to take a step back, Tumei interrupted. "Naturally, I purposely went easy on you." She shrugged and shook her head. "Otherwise, Seonji would have been arrested every time, and there would have been nothing you could say. And I was responsible for keeping an eye on you from the dark," Aiko the penguin said, "to check if the pattern of the control period that we observed earlier was correct. When everything was ready, Hirata continued, I brought you all here." When Xiao Tan heard that, his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He whispered to his brother Ju, "So, before we arrived here, the last side quest was the system's final hint." "Yes," Feng Bujue answered. "The system gave us the whole morning to think about it, but I did not expect that, even after the side quest was completed, the system did not give up. It used a transition to remind us that the next main quest was our last chance to see through these NPCs," Xiao Tan said. "This is such a shame," Feng Bujue sighed. "The familiarity with the world of the scenario has become a burden. If you were to queue up this scenario with someone who doesn't know much about Niwa, perhaps you would have noticed something earlier. Their size would not change anything." At that moment, the man who had everything under his control was, "In this world, Hirata-kun's power is invincible," Tumei said. "He has been preparing for this for a long time. Unless there's an external intervention, you will not be able to escape from this place," Aiko the penguin added. "The players who came to this world before this made me realize that you can force a retreat, so I'm not afraid." Hirata glared at the two of them and chuckled coldly. "Haha, that is why I've been preparing for so long." Before he finished, Feng Bujue opened the game menu cautiously. He tried the option to force himself out of the scenario, and the result, operation failed. The system's voice announced something extremely terrifying. At the same second, Xiao Tan saw the expression on his brother Ju's face shift, and he realized something. The two of them had the same thought. Xiao Tan opened the game menu and tried to force a retreat. Operation failed. The same announcement entered Wang Tanji's ears. So that is why, after a moment's silence, Feng Bujue lifted his head to look at the three NPCs and said, "That is why, after the incident with the bandit bears _I, you waited so long before you brought us here. Main quest has been changed." As he spoke, the system announcement came again. Brother Ju and Xiao Tan quickly glanced at the quest tab, and they saw, "Before the scenario ends, try to hide your identity as a player." This quest had been erased, and in its place was "Leave the gaming hub." "Ha! Thank you, system." Feng Bujue could still laugh. "Is this a forced change to the quest?" Brother Ju, Wang Tanji's expression was extremely serious. "This should be the scariest quest I've encountered since I started playing this game." At this point, they did not hold back anymore. "Leave the gaming hub. That's easy for you to say," Feng Bujue said. "But we're playing the game in sleeping mode. Before the connection is disconnected, it's hard for us to wake up on our own." He rubbed his chin and said, If we want to use the power of the real world to disconnect the connection, unless someone opens the game cabin from the outside, or if something happens to us physically. For example, we need to go to the toilet in a hurry, or pain, itch, or other obvious discomfort to a certain extent, then that's not going to work, Xiaotan said. That's right, Feng Bujua added as he turned to look at Hirata. Hirata-kun, you are indeed impressive. In your territory, even the system of our world is no match for your power. He shrugged and said, even though I know a few people who can make the system unable to forcibly disconnect them, they only exist in the data layer of Thriller Paradise itself. But you're different. You're in your own dimension, and you've managed to suppress 2 higher dimensional mental hosts. Huh. Hirata smirked. It's useless to flatter me. Just accept your fate. His murderous aura seemed to materialize, and it exploded. I want you 2 so-called players, so-called higher dimensional creatures, to experience the feeling of having your mind controlled by someone else. After being hit by my consciousness attack, when you wake up from your own world, you'll either turn into deranged lunatics or drooling idiots. He cackled strangely. Ha ha, you'll make a perfect pair of comedic partners, won't you? Ha ha. He laughed for a while, before his expression suddenly turned vicious. He roared, go back to your own dimension. Go back to acting in a F***King comic. At this point, Hirata appeared to be ready to make his move, but huff, 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 huff. A wave of creepy laughter came from the sky. Oh, you're finally here. Feng Bujua smiled with relief. Huh, I thought it was over. Well, what's going on? Xiaotan's expression turned from shock to confusion. Feng Bujua, on the other hand, had a smile on his face as he told Hirata, Bunny May, and Penguin Helper, you have all underestimated one person. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.